Right on. Here we go. Good evening. This is a work session for the Molalla City Council for Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Roll call beginning with Councilor Gilmore.
Councilor Gilmer present.
Councilor Schenkel present.
Councilor Childress present.
Mayor Kaiser present.
Council President Vermillion present.
Councilor Bartholomew present.
Dan Huff, City Manager present.
City Recorder Christy Teets present.
Please note that if a councilor wishes to discuss a major policy issue that is not on the agenda, it should be raised during new business for consideration at a future work session or meeting, not during the current meeting. Decisions cannot be voted on during the work session. Our first topic of tonight, 2026 City Council Calendar of Events. Christy, take it away.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. All right, here we are once again. As a continuation of our goal-setting prep, I have put together a draft calendar for you all of events for this year. That's going to be on page 4, and you'll see where I've highlighted our city council meetings. I've got goal setting there. I've got budget committee. Let the record show that Councilor Bicinius is joining us at 7:02. Greetings, Councilor.
It's only 5:02,
It's all
I
right.
think.
It is 5:02.
Yeah.
Hey, Christy.
Yes, sir.
You said for the record it's 7:02. It's actually 5:02.
5:02.
So it is.
Cool. Just making sure your record's right.
Woohoo! Don't you just love that it's 5:02?
I'm not sure I could fully agree after but apologies, I had I appointments.
Fair
so
enough.
they went way long here also.
We're glad you made it. Staff acknowledges that you all have responsibilities outside of city council, so I wanted to take some time tonight to be able to create a calendar of events. We'll get as much done as we can during this time. I know it's certainly helpful for those of you that are employed. I have organized the attached memo from January to December. That's on page 3. And as you can see, there are a few decisions that are going to need to be made that I've highlighted throughout. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that today I received confirmation that Celebrate Molalla has been set for August 22nd. So we can put that on our calendar as a confirmation.
To your right on here.
Yeah, it was a guess. Anyhow, so if we could just please begin with January, and we'll start hammering through these things. Our first item that would be, mostly it would be important for me to know who's attending, so I could post a notice of quorum if necessary, is the upcoming Chamber of Commerce auction dinner. I have heard from a few of you that you need to pass. And I do know that Councilor Childress is attending. Any of the gentlemen that I haven't heard from, do you plan to attend? No. All right, Karen. Oh, no. All right, that is that. No quorum, notice of quorum needed.
I'll bring the party, don't worry.
Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And I'll also point out that what's on my item discussion is January 31st. I know it's January 24th, so I apologize for the
What?
wrong.
No, it is.
No, no,
the
no, no,
third.
it's the
It is
31st.
actually, well,
I
look at me, I
confirmed
got it
that
right.
too.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's the
I thought I saw
31st.
something
No,
that it
it
was
is
the
the
31st.
31st.
Okay. So, moving on, we're pretty much status quo through February. Moving on to March, I just wanted to let you all know, likely in early February, you will be receiving an email from me. You'll see the announcement that city manager evaluation is coming up. We adopted a process last year. We'll use the same process this year. You'll get the scoring guide. It will be very simple for you to navigate. And if you have any questions for me, Councilor Bicinius, you know how to get a hold of me. I make sure to have it all very, very detailed. And it's, You can remain anonymous in your scoring, or you can mark your name down. It totally is up to you.
You guys
For-
ever anonymous?
We were.
Depends what I have to say, Dan.
There you go. And Councilor Vice City, just for your information, staff does stay anonymous. City manager and I always talk about this is like the one odd situation where subordinates are grading their boss, and it's weird, and none of us really care much for it, so we like to stay anonymous in our marks.
And I'll tell you, the funny thing is, when I read that stuff, I know exactly
Yeah.
who they
So do we.
We did too.
are. I totally know who they are. Every last one of them.
Okay, so we're gonna start that process in February. Everything will be due to me in March, on March 18th. And then mostly what I wanted you all to be able to calendar for March 25th. The city manager's evaluation is due by March 31st, so we do at least have a deadline there. So I've scheduled for us on March 25th, we will start at 5 o'clock with an executive session. You'll meet just with me. I'll hand everything out to you. I'll, of course, leave, give you all an opportunity to review documents, have your discussion together. We'll have regular session at 6 o'clock, and then immediately following, we'll go back into executive session. We'll go meet with City Manager Huff. So you'll know for that meeting. It will likely be a little bit later evening,
25th.
so please mark that on the calendar.
Of March.
Christie, I have one for March.
Yeah,
March
Gone.
5th. C4 is going to be coming to Molalla.
thank you.
We're going to be at the police station.
What,
Okay,
March 5th?
Yeah, it's the first Thursday of the month.
Or March
okay.
5th? I thought it was later, but, okay.
And they're
And what's expectation of council, Mayor?
usually like when they've only done it once. And did you go to Camby's?
Yes, I did.
How many were there of their council? Do you remember?
There was just half of them were there.
Okay. So all counselors are invited
Sure.
to attend, and is there a formal invitation that we could pass on to everyone?
I just got a hold of Jamie last Thursday. She's getting things set up and scheduled with Suzanne for everything, and so I will send her an email and see if there's something that there's formal that they're gonna be putting out, or will it just be our regular monthly advertisement?
Yeah.
It's similar to the grand opening for the police department. We just need to know, if you're gonna go, fine, but we just need to calculate whether or not there's gonna be a quorum or not, and if there is, then we need to put a public notice out.
The meeting's gonna consist of basically, they want either a mayor and elected from every city in the county, and then 2 county commissioners. And there's a lot of mayors and city councilors that are not rural. They're urban, they're metro. And so they've made a goal of coming out and exploring and learning about our cities, because we are so much different than Oregon City or Gladstone or Milwaukee. And so it'll mostly probably end up being, there'll be some formal business that we'll vote on, but it'll mostly be, Dan, Mac, staff, going through what the city does and the kind of the differences in what we are compared to the urban.
Do you know roughly what time that would be?
It usually starts at around 6:45, the meeting part, so it'll probably be like around 6, because they're gonna be catering dinner.
So 6.
So it sounds like we'll be able to get everybody a little more information on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Leota and I are screwing things up.
Okay.
We are going to be on a cruise during spring break, which is March 25th.
You didn't have to tell them what you were doing.
Sell yourselves out.
Sorry, she's just going to Cabo.
No, that's this Sunday. This
Yeah,
is,
just Cabo though.
oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to a
she's
different
been-
part of Mexico, but it's the following week.
Jeez.
I don't recall getting an invitation.
I don't either.
I told you I was going.
You did, and I thank you for that. All right. right, folks, so
Do we need to put a special meeting together?
When are you guys leaving?
The 19th.
I
Well, that won't.
I think it, oh golly, we just have so much going on right now. I think it could be reasonable that we move the evaluation. If it's important to the two of you that you attend, I will move it. If you are fine with submitting things to me.
Terry.
I mean, there will be a quorum.
Were you shaking your head at
I
I
said
remember
it
a few
wasn't
people didn't even
important
do
to
it
me.
last year.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
right, exactly. So,
If you ladies don't care if you're voting in it, we can continue the meeting as long as everybody else shows up, because it would be very disheartening if we did not have quorum that night.
Right.
yeah, and I would have your
All
comments
our
and
stuff
scoring
in. Okay.
guides. So if council is amenable to that, I would like to keep that date. Pushing it up any earlier right now might push staff right over the edge. That would be great.
Ship.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hold on to
Done.
that March 25th date.
Might push 'em over the edge.
I mean, we could call in from the ship.
Do we think that's a wise choice?
After 40 Mai Tais?
Yeah.
Okay, we're live. All right, moving on. April, let's look at April now.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
never mind. We didn't decide about the April 22nd city council meeting.
That's where we're
That's
at
what
right
she's
now.
just-
Oh, you said
Too.
April. I'm so sorry. I
Yep,
still
we're-
had marked
we-
my
no,
head. I
we're
apologize.
all there together. So because I have looked ahead, I know that Spring LOC is April 23rd and 24th in Pendleton. Last year, we did cancel that second meeting in April, so you all could attend. Due to the LOC conflict, I wasn't sure if that's how we wanted to handle that again. If consensus is yes, then I would need to bring it back at the next meeting so we can kind of
I think
adopt
that
that
was the North
appropriately.
Bend.
Yeah, I think
one,
you were all in
right?
North Bend last
North Bend is
spring.
where most of us went last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is anybody planning on going to Pendleton
Not
as
me.
part of the question?
I'd like to, try to
Okay,
go, yeah.
okay, there's 5.
Okay.
So it feels safe to say we should probably cancel that meeting.
Cancel or relocate it?
I prefer not to travel to
Pendleton.
Pendleton.
She doesn't want to go to
without you, sir.
Pendleton.
No, I meant on the schedule.
Yeah.
Relocate it on the
Talking about
schedule.
moving the meeting to another
Means
date.
put it on a different date is what he
Well,
was
we can
actually
look at
trying to
Week
it.
say.
before, week after, whatever works for you.
If there's pressing matters that we
Certainly.
need to handle, we can do that.
So the week before would not be well, excuse me. How about this? How about we discuss this again at the end of March? And
Perfect.
we see where we're at. We can put that one as a placeholder.
Okay.
That's like a 4 or 5 hour trip, isn't it?
It's 3 hours.
3.
Pendleton.
Oh,
Well,
It
it's 3 hours
is.
if you drive
Depends on which
a
route
Camaro.
which route you go.
and how you.
I was gonna say, it took me almost 4, so.
Yeah,
you would-
okay. I've done
That's
it a
impressive.
lot.
What I would say about all of this, again, similar to last year for your drive time, meetings start on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. So you'll likely want to use that Wednesday as your travel day or travel evening, so you can be there and be checked in and ready for meetings first thing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we can certainly come back to that. I'll write myself a note to check in with you all at the end, maybe end of March. We can see where we're at. And so what goes with that is I followed the calendar according to where we had events set last year. And last year we did spring cleanup, that 24 and 25. My question about that was, do we need to move this due to the LOC conference?
No, because it's
So-
just her and I that are doing it,
Okay.
probably.
And you'll be back?
We're
Or
not.
are you going to manage it from the ship?
That's in April. The other thing is in March.
It'd be a very long cruise. Sounds great.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay.
If you cancel volunteer.
Oh, I think he volunteered last year.
Eric,
Yeah.
I was there.
Eric did.
Scott
Yeah,
was
you were
there.
There.
Yeah. We're still okay, I think, don't
Okay.
you?
Yeah.
This feels like a really good time to mention to you that I was approached by the lead, gosh, I don't want to disrespect him in any way. He's the leader of the National Honor Society here at Molalla High School. And they are looking for community service points.
Yeah, they bailed on us last year.
And, okay, I did mention to them that we would have an opportunity available in the spring for spring cleanup, that it would require either, a parent, guardian, coach, class teacher, basically, they need an adult to come and help unless it's somebody that you both know and that you would vouch for. That's just a cover for CIS for us. Anybody 15 to 18 has to have an adult with them. But they were very interested in. So Counselor Liz is at least a new group this year of high schoolers. So maybe they would follow through. I don't know, I'm trying to
Yeah, I
Positive
know.
thinking.
It was kind of frustrating because they didn't tell us at all.
Okay.
They made it sound
They
like they
just
were gonna show up.
didn't show up.
And
I
they
can
just didn't show up, yeah.
communicate that,
Yeah.
I can certainly, I can
And I
communicate
understand
it.
how
That's-
high schoolers, I know how they operate,
Stuff
so,
happens,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so, counselors, then, you would like to leave spring cleanup for the 24th and 25th? Is that what I'm hearing?
Question, is that 25th being a Saturday? I don't know the hours. I've not participated in on either side of that previously. What are the hours generally on those events?
9 to 4,
9 to 4? Okay.
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
And people within city limits can bring their garbage, mattresses,
Right.
Goodwill stuff, whatever. It's a good event.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
great event.
Suzanne brings lots of stuff to eat.
And basically, we're just there, we've got to direct traffic and do counts and things. but,
Yeah.
Terry and I usually handle all of that, but some of the guys would go out and help people who needed help unloading. We don't try to unload everybody,
Sure.
seniors or someone who looks like they need some assistance. We try to go and help them unload.
Nice.
There's a Sharps container there too, for, didn't they have one there?
The
Biohazard
police don't,
recycling.
oh, who took Sharps? Did somebody take Sharps?
I think Nicole
The
Yeah, I thought
police
Nicole-
do not take,
Oh.
No, please
Sharps.
don't
It's
take
just a
sharps.
drug take
Sharps
back.
The
have
drug
to be
take
taken.
back,
Just
sorry,
medication.
I spoke wrong. Drug take back,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, we can't.
Which is
Sure.
also a
Nobody can take
wonderful
that.
service to provide.
Yeah.
It's
So they
such a
sit
great
out there,
event.
too.
And
Gotcha.
Goodwill comes out and takes donations also.
Yeah, I missed it last year. Sounds like a great event.
It is.
It's grown every year.
The community sure appreciates it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else in April for you all? All right,
I know
gonna
my
move on.
calendar.
Ci- As crazy as it sounds, Cindy and I have already set the budget schedule for May. We're dialed in. We've got everything squared away. So you'll see on your draft calendar that we are scheduled to hold. Our main meeting will be on Wednesday, May 20th. And of course, we always have to notice an extra meeting in the event that we don't get our business done in one meeting. We usually do, because we're just that good. But nonetheless, we do ask
You're just
that.
that motivated.
Yeah, yes, exactly. We try to make sure to prepare you all and give you all the proper information ahead of time too. But nonetheless, I do ask that you hold that Thursday, May 21st, available as a placeholder. And we will start at 6 o'clock, and we will be here.
At 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that generally challenging to get done in one evening? Would it be possible? Okay.
Not,
Not for
No.
us.
not,
Not for the trained professionals you all are?
yes.
I like it.
They are so well prepared and have given us everything that it's really goes quick.
And
Awesome.
we get it, a week ahead of time to look over and ask questions
Yeah.
beforehand too, so.
Counselor Bicenius, one of the, what I will say about that meeting is that our charter states that we have to make a decision by 9:30, whether we're gonna keep going or whether we're gonna stop, and we eke to 9:30 for those, because we are also, we're holding our budget committee meeting along with our urban renewal agency budget committee meeting simultaneously. So we hold the initial one and then go right into Mira after that. And the last couple, I think we've adjourned at like 9:24.
I think
So-
last year we were out of here before 9. I think it was right before 9.
Minutes.
I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Before
it was-
9 p.m.
It was
We
just
killed it.
minutes before 9. We
Yeah.
just powered right through it. So mostly the message is, it's a long evening, but we do get it done in one
Yeah,
night.
so.
Good.
So for your benefit, what we do encourage is, if you do have questions or, I mean, it's public finance, so it's a little bit different. And, come in and ask. No questions are dumb.
And Casey, one of the other things that the city will offer you, well, they offer to all of us every year, is LOC has an online class that we can take for the budget. And so you'll get credentialed to go online and learn the LOC program. And I mean, it's not LOC's way, it teaches you kind of all the fundamentals of the budget, which so you'll have a pretty good understanding when you walk in to do the budget or what's going on. And the week before is the read time, get your questions answered. We walk in, we hear a lot of presentations, and there's usually not a lot of change, because there's really, if you change it from one thing, you gotta pull it from something else.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's,
and we don't have budget deficits that are facing us. Some cities are looking at pretty hefty ones this year or next year or the year after.
can I hold you to that this year?
Huh?
Can I hold you to that this year? You said we don't have budget
No.
deficits this
We
year?
don't.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, this year you can hold me to that.
Then
'cause-
coming into the new year, yes, perfect.
Yes.
I do want to, I want to press pause for just a moment and say to all of my counselors that did a raise of hands on the LOC Spring Conference. I think that message starts to go out mid-February or late February. Just know that when I get back to the office tomorrow, I'll relay to Suzanne all of your interests, so she knows as soon as that comes open to look for a block of 5 from us. So we're on it. We've got you guys. So when you see it, you don't have to be like, Christy, it's open. We get the same message that you do, and I'll make sure that she gets you dialed in.
And I think the fall conference is in Salem
We're not
this
there
year.
yet.
I know, but I'm projecting. So if you're contemplating which one you want to go to, the other one's in Salem.
That's on Jay.
Yes,
But it has to
Yeah.
do with C.
Wow.
Counselor Bicenius, you see, you're kind of getting a glimpse into my daily life.
It would be an interesting day.
Indeed, there's never a dull moment, I'll tell you that much.
It is. You never know what's going to come out.
All right, so in July is the OCCMA conference. We've
Yeah.
got the
Who cares?
exactly. But what I will tell you, and I think this happened last year, our city manager and assistant city manager both attended, and it was just us. We just ran the meeting by ourselves, so we could be faced with that again this year. So we know we can do it. Mostly, I just like for you guys to have that
Hey,
awareness.
Christie, the one thing that's
With
not
Mac
on
and
here
I not
is
here,
the
we'll-
City Recorders Conference.
I may not be attending this year, Mayor. I
Why?
haven't had a chance to talk to, actually, you kind of do know about this. I may be taking an actual vacation in September.
Good for you.
Yes, so I have to do one or the other. It's vacation or conference. I can't do both.
That'd
So
be an easy answer.
Please tell me that's not a toss-up for you.
it's not a toss-up.
It shouldn't. It would, about 6 years ago it would have been.
That's true, it wouldn't have, but now, what I will say is, yeah, so our deputy city
Got it.
recorder would be attending the conference. on both our behalf, and I'll be here with you in September.
Okay.
All right. Back to August we go. Just more information for you more than anything. National Night Out scheduled for Tuesday, August 4th. That's typically an evening event. And I know that many of you like to attend that event, so if you want to put that on your counselor or on your calendar, I think that usually starts at 5. Is that right?
5,
4 or
correct.
5?
Yeah.
Five.
something
I
like
will
that.
not be in attendance for that.
You?
I leave the day after for OMA.
Yes, you do. I see that. Okay.
Okay, got that one.
Yeah, and are you
Okay.
going to a Shakespearean play while you're down there?
They're really
Will
cool.
they let me
They are
in?
really cool. That would be-
Depends on what hat you're
Only
wearing.
if you can do Othello.
I got a new hat. It'll be here next council meeting.
You can do the Othello oration dressed as Daryl.
All right, moving on. We're gonna, and that actually doesn't interfere with any meetings or anything of that nature, so no worried about that. We have confirmed we can take the tentative away from Celebrate Molalla for August 22nd and go with scheduled. Maybe Mr. Huff will have his new baby granddaughter here in August to
Another one?
Is there a meet and greet scheduled?
Oh, wow.
A meet and
Why
greet.
would they
I
do
love it. Yeah.
No,
so
think
much
we need a
fun.
meet
probably
greet.
not.
I was
I
just
mean,
putting it out to the
If they
universe. It
come,
could
yeah,
happen.
they
Yeah.
could come visit.
I thought he taught his children better. You don't have kids during duck season.
It's not.
They didn't.
They didn't.
They weren't supposed to.
They were trying to say,
She showed up on her
She
own.
showed up a little early, so she had her own
Yeah.
things. She had her own plan.
Feisty one. All right, so October, leads us, September is pretty much status quo at this point. October, what we do know about, as city manager mentioned, you'll have the fall conference in Salem, and that will be 15, 16, 17. I believe that shouldn't inhibit any of our regular business for the October 14th. I would want, as we get closer, I would want somebody to please let me know if that causes an issue, but it's pretty close.
This
Salem's
is the
only,
one
what,
that's in
45
Salem,
minutes
right?
from here?
Yes.
Salem would start on
Mhm.
Thursday morning.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, drive down there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
exactly.
And I will say, I want to see the agenda for the meeting before I
Certainly.
completely say I'm not going to Pendleton, because
Sure.
it might be interesting enough to make me want to drive that far.
Absolutely.
And by then they'll also have the agenda
Yes,
somewhat put together for the fall one also.
they will. Yeah, sounds great. You bet. And then we have such an odd thing. It was just the way the calendar fell. The second meeting in November is November 11th, which is also Veterans Day, and City Hall is closed that day. And we can put this as a placeholder too if we need to. But we just need to decide whether we are going to just skip that meeting and use our joint meeting for
the
our
planning
require,
commission.
with the planning commission as our charter requirement for that month. I mean, it's technically still, since the city council is the governing body, since you're still all present, it would fall in line for the November requirement. So you guys can decide now, or you can decide later.
I would be in favor of deciding later, because we don't know what we're gonna need to do
Okay,
Yeah.
as far as
Workload.
business.
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah, it looks like we can actually have a December 23rd meeting.
Which is also, and this can be a wait and see. I did just see that December 23rd, it was like, all right, I suppose if we had business to conduct, we could meet, or if you all know that what your holiday schedules are now. Some people do, I don't. And
I don't
usually
either.
until, the 20th of December is when I
Keep it as a placeholder and see what the workload is.
want to wait and see. You got it.
Okay.
All right.
all in.
That is very helpful for me. I will update my agenda tracker, which then, thank you all. I appreciate that. And then, so next up is our 2026 required CIS trainings. This stems from, and you all know, some of you have been with me this long. Some of us have all done the CIS harassment trainings together. Some of us haven't. And it certainly is, over the last couple of years, I will take the responsibility of wearing so many hats. We had a HR risk person. We didn't have an HR risk person. We had it, so we kind of bounced back and forth. And so we haven't been as good. I have not been as good about scheduling council trainings. Well, we have a risk manager now. Woohoo! It's really cool. So it does make it, Alicia has been able to help me with, hey, I think some of the city councilors have some required training too. And I'm like, you are correct. So we worked on what really pertained just to you all. Staff has to take monthly trainings, including this staff member right here. He doesn't love them, but they're mandates through CIS. They come from OSHA. They are related to public employees, what gifts we can accept, what we can't, so on, so forth. So this schedule that you have in front of you this evening that you'll see is directly pertains to city councils. So you've got some elected essentials here, public records. These are just good. This is a good refresher. Again, if you have been at the dais for a while, I'll tell you, I take this class sometimes twice a year because the public records rules are constantly changing, and they're just good reminders. So you'll see that. You'll have ethics awareness. That's just the overall elected essentials, what's important to you as elected officials, what you can do, what you can't do. And then you join city staff. These three are trainings that we take annually also. So it's the harassment, it is fraud training, and then cybersecurity training. My message to you is that this will come to you in the way of, I wrote myself a note so I wouldn't forget to tell you guys this stuff. When you see an email, it all comes through a portal. They're all online. You can take the test as many times as you need. Nobody but one individual, and it's not me or him, knows how many times you had to take the test, so it just doesn't matter. I mean, really what they're trying to get you to is the understanding of the materials that's presented to you. So when you see an email from learn@cisoregon.org, it's the real thing. You need to you'll have to log in, create a username and password. Your username's going to be whatever your city email is, as kaiser@cityofmolalla.com. You'll assign your own password. You'll get yourself in. It'll take you to that learning module, launch learning. Some are 10 minutes, some are 60 minutes. It just depends on the content. I'll tell you now, the harassment training it's either 50 or 60 minutes, and again, we all have to take it. And he harasses me anyway. I thought I'd beat him to it. So there you go.
So there's no way we can do them all?
You will, the same as the staff?
No, do all of these at once instead of having a
No.
once a
They'll come
month
at different
cloud
times.
chasing me.
And I will tell you that you have to go through each step of the training. You can't
Before you can do the
you
test.
can't like skip ahead to the end.
I have,
Oh.
It's like, you would know through
I
the school
cannot
district.
figure out how to have it let me do that.
The last one I did, you can just drag on the thing to the last and leave it about 10 seconds, and then hit play again. You can just scroll
Councilor
through it.
Resnius has got it
Not
figured
saying
out.
I didn't get all mine done for my last employer in a couple hours, but yeah, done a few of these.
So the short answer is no. The module is set up to release one per month. So you'll see, and then you have, so it'll be from January 1st to January 31st to get it completed. If you don't get it completed, you get a daily email that says, you haven't completed your January training. I know this, it happens to me. So they do send you reminders if it.
I tried to send him back a note. I don't want to.
But I don't want
It doesn't seem to know.
Well, I was just thinking I could wait till the fifth one comes and then just do them all.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's an option, Mayor. You have a couple of people at City Hall that will be getting after me. Would you tell the mayor to take
Yeah,
his
no,
test?
I'll get them done on time.
So in January, we log into that portal and it's gonna tell us what classes we need?
That is such a great question, thank you. You are going to be assigned, I asked my colleagues at work, I said, please wait until I have an opportunity to present this to council. Because if it shows up in their email inboxes now, they're all gonna think it's spam, so just wait. So your very first, you will get notification likely later this week, early next week. And for council, all of your training will start the 1st of February. Staff's has already started, you'll start in February. Yes, sir.
Is there a printable certificate when you're done with the course?
There is,
Okay,
And it gets automatically sent to us.
yeah.
okay.
I mean, you can print it off and put it on your wall if you want to, but
Paper the wall with it.
Yeah,
I got a 3-ring binder for all
There
that
you
stuff,
go.
yeah.
there you go. Yeah, but, so yes, there will be a certificate, you can print it, but the notification does go directly to our HR and payroll coordinator. You're considered staff in that, and she just keeps track of all of the staff.
because I got a new certificate this week
For,
What's that
for
one?
passing the slips and falls training.
Slips, trips, and falls. and all.
Congratulations.
So I hung it on my wall,
trips and falls.
It's important, you can get hurt.
and
I know.
there wasn't a box that said, just be more coordinated.
Don't be like that.
Should have taken that last year.
I
Very
should have taken
funny.
it last week. I stepped on my bumper and slipped and fell. Oh, no.
I came bumming out of my car this morning to get into City Hall, and the parking lot was a solid sheet of ice.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I just took my test and passed, too.
Points of contact, people.
Yes, slow down. Yeah, Mayor and Council, that's all I have for you this evening. If you have any questions regarding any of this information, I'm happy to answer.
All right. Well, I will adjourn this work session at 5:37. We'll be back at 6 o'clock. Thanks for the warning. Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Molalla City Council for January 14th, 2026. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced in this meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Audience members, we request that you silence your cell phones and not conduct side conversations during the meeting. Thank you. Next will be roll call, beginning with Councilor Basinius.
Counselor Basinius, present.
Counselor Bartholomew present.
Council President Vermillion present.
Mayor Kaiser present.
Counselor Childress, present.
Counselor Schenkel present?
Counselor Gilmer present?
Assistant City Manager Matt Corthell, present.
Planning Manager Dan Zender, present.
Violet Brown, 3J Consulting.
Clarissa Davis, Associate Planner, present.
City Recorder Christy Teets, present.
Dan Huff, City Manager, present.
All right. Do staff or council have any changes to the agenda tonight? All right. Up next will be our consent agenda, consisting of work session meeting minutes of December 10th, 2025, and city council meeting minutes, December 10th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I make,
Oh, go ahead.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Christie, will you call the roll?
Certainly. Counselor Gilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel.
Aye.
Counselor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Counselor Basinius.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 7-0.
All right. Up next will be council liaison appointments. At the beginning of each calendar year, Molalla Municipal Code states that a council president must be appointed by the city council. The council president acts as presiding officer in the event the mayor's absence from any city council meeting. Is there a volunteer or nomination for the position of council president?
I move to appoint Counselor Vermillion as the council president for 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Christie, will you call the roll?
Actually, Mayor, we're going to go ahead and conduct each of these with a consensus by raise of hand. So
Okay.
if you'll refer to your script right there.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
All right, we will proceed with a hand raise for consensus. Please raise your hand for aye. Please raise your hand for nay. Vote is 6 with 1 abstaining. I abstained.
Thank you.
Up next is Council Beautification and Culture CPC Liaison Appointment. Is there a volunteer or nomination for the liaison to Beautification and Culture CPC? All right, we have two raising their Counselor Childress and Counselor Schenkel are volunteering. Please raise your hand for aye. Please raise your hand for nay. Vote passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Up next will be Chamber of Commerce Liaison Appointment. Is there a volunteer or nomination for liaison to Chamber of Commerce?
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I will do that if there's not anybody else that is able to. It's been a little bit challenging for my schedule to make those meetings during the day. I'd like to see about potentially being appointed on a different role. However, if there's not somebody that can fulfill that role, I will do it.
Okay.
When do they have their meetings?
It's the first Thursday, 9 a.m. at the fire station.
Oh, 9 a.m.
I can't do that either.
Isn't it 8?
I
It's
could
actually
Or
do
excuse me, I apologize. It is 8 a.m.
It's 8 o'clock,
8 o'clock.
8 to 9.
Yep,
Once a month.
correct.
Correct.
Once a
First
month.
Thursday. Okay. I volunteer at the school in the mornings at 7. I think I could possibly do that.
Okay.
They're used to me.
Oh, Dan wants to do it.
Whoa, that was good.
You raised your hand.
No, I was just gonna make a comment. So we do send staff to those meetings as well. I think Max sends a person, and I go periodically. And I do. And so if there's a time when you can't go, you just let us
Okay.
know and we'll make sure somebody else is there. I think it's important that we have somebody there.
I agree, having been on the
Yeah.
chamber, yeah.
All right, all those, and the other thing too is if you can't make it, maybe get with Counselor Bassani.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, I'd happy to try to help.
Okay.
So, Counselor Schenkel is nominated. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Do I raise my hand?
All right, passes unanimously.
Do we put Casey on there as an alternate?
Up next will be Council Library Liaison appointment. Is there a nomination or a volunteer? Counselor Gilmer?
Did you very slowly put it?
Yeah.
Inched up there.
All right.
This might be a fun time to be the library liaison,
Yeah,
so.
What are the
What's
times
the
or
schedule?
frequencies of those?
They don't meet that often, so it's not a rigorous schedule.
They don't meet that often, and we have, the other thing is that you get a bird's eye view for the design project that we're just kicking off.
I mean, I'm happy to volunteer for that if that's something.
That's fine if you want to
Okay.
try.
It's fine, either way.
Okay. Sure.
It's not in the morning.
How about if I put you both down?
There
I'll
you go.
volunteer for it.
Both of you.
Sure.
You betcha.
All right, so the nomination is for Counselor Gilmer and Counselor Bassinius. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? All right. Molalla River School District Liaison appointment. Do both of you want to continue with that?
Sure.
Okay,
I wouldn't mind being involved with that if there's a need for a third person on that
Okay.
or an alternate, I guess.
I think that we meet about quarterly. Isn't that the, what you got out of the last meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
and it's usually coffee and, conversation. So,
Okay, so all three, go ahead and appoint all three?
Sure.
Okay, so the appointments for Counselor Gilmer, Counselor Childress, and Counselor Bassinius. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Unanimous. C4 alternate appointment. Is there a volunteer or a nomination?
I'll volunteer.
All right, Counselor Vermillion. All those in favor, is anybody else want to put their name in the hat? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? It is unanimous. All right, moving on. That was sir.
I was just gonna ask if you wanted to go ahead and put Counselor Bassinius on the beautification and culture CPC liaison as well.
I think I have enough roles.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Just check it.
Appreciate it.
All right, up next will be citizen comment. Citizens are allowed for up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city but not listed as an item on the agenda. Prior to speaking, citizens shall complete a comment form and deliver it to the city recorder. The city council does not generally engage in dialogue with those making comment but may refer the issue to the city manager. Complaints should first be addressed at the department level prior to addressing the city council. This public comment period is for items not on the agenda tonight. If you are speaking on a topic listed on tonight's agenda, you will be provided a time to speak later in the meeting. Christy, is there anybody who wishes to speak? in this
Not
section?
during public comment, this public comment period, no.
Okay, thank you. Up next, ordinances and resolutions. Resolution number 2026-01, accepting the dedication of a portion of tax lot 52E07A00710 and authorizing the city manager to prepare and execute necessary real property transaction documents. Mr. Corthell, can I have your report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. So this is a 4.56 acre undeveloped parcel that resulted from a previous partition of property associated with the Tractor Supply development. So it's that lot just south of there, the creek runs through it. We finally know of it as the Yaw property. And we've been working on this transaction for quite a while. The short and sweet of it is that parcel 4 of that lot, if you look to the exhibit to the resolution, Exhibit A, that is the one outlined in green. And that's that parcel 4, that would be dedicated to the city. Future developer of parcel 3, we have a development agreement in place and recorded that they would complete all frontage improvements along both properties. We have a shared access agreement from Oregon 211 to the new city lot and a shared maintenance agreement for the north and south shared access. The Tractor Supply store is actually responsible for maintenance on the big portion of that going from 211 to the back of the lot. Then the little strip on the far right that you see that comes down parcel 3, the city and the owner of parcel 3 would share maintenance there because we'll be using that to access that lot. The other portions of the agreement are an IRS donation letter to the property owners for the proportionate value of dedication by square footage, and the city to pay a portion of the title report and waive final plat fee. Overall costs are approximately $3,000 in transaction costs stemming from those, the title report and the fee waivers, as well as staff time. And we estimate approximately $10,000 annually in maintenance costs, which isn't a great elevation because we already have to get in there and maintain that stormwater easement. So it's really just an additional probably a couple thousand to be able to take care of the areas outside of that easement. So that is, and I did put a note on there that the real property transaction documents attached to the resolution have been reviewed by the city attorney's office. That's true, except for that they're not attached to the resolution. My apologies, I misstated that. It would just clog up your agenda. It's just a bargain and sale deed and agreement that the city attorney's office drafted. So that's what that's alluding to. That's not in your packet, actually. So,
Okay.
if anyone has any questions?
All right, is there a motion to approve resolution number 2026-01, accepting the dedication of portion of tax lot 52E07A00710 and authorizing the city manager to prepare and execute necessary real property transaction documents by title only?
I move to approve resolution number 2026-01, accepting the dedication of a portion of tax lot 52E07A00710 and authorizing the city manager to prepare and execute necessary real property transaction documents by title only.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Is there any thoughts on future of what we may be doing with the property?
I realized I left that out as soon as I said, if there's any questions, thank you, Mayor. So that property, the reason, you already have a stormwater easement there, right? So that's a big deal. We need to have stormwater easements along the creek so that people aren't under the wrong impression. But really, it plays into the Parks and Trails Master Plan, where we're slowly but surely acquiring the land along the creek side. Because it can't be developed anyways, so it has a much greater value as a trail system, and that's part of your Parks and Trails Master Plan. So.
All right, perfect. All right, any other questions or discussion? All right, Christie, will you call the roll?
Certainly. Counselor Gilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel.
Aye.
Counselor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Counselor Bicenius.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 7-0.
All right, up next will be resolution number 2026-02, adopting a legacy system development charge policy. Ms. Corthell, ready for your staff report.
Thank you again, Mayor, and good evening again, Council. So this is the kind of our first salvo as we start to take back on SDCs. We're taking them on in a little bit more of a bite-sized approach with some of these nuanced situations that we already know of. And then, of course, we'll hit the whole kit and caboodle here in this next fiscal year. So as we redo the 5-year capital improvement plan, and as you guys know, that marries up with the system development charges. So basically, the long and short of this is this is a policy that staff has noticed that there's some fundamental unfairness that occurs with system development charges, especially given the age of some of the properties in town and some of the developments really in town. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over this report a little bit so the folks at home can kind of understand this a little bit too, and in the audience. So in 2025, the City Council adopted an updated economic opportunities analysis in the comp plan that includes the following implementation strategies: meet industrial and commercial land needs, encourage infill redevelopment and/or adaptive reuse of obsolete or underused properties. That's the operative sentence that you want to kind of key on for this resolution in current employment zones. And their second one is policy and code strategies. Continue to improve and streamline development regulations and review processes where possible to reduce cost and time. So reducing cost and time and improve and provide predictability is what we're trying to do here. Those are the two kind of portions of those policies that you guys set that this kind of gets at. The policy proposed in this resolution is geared toward partially fulfilling those implementation measures. System development charges were created, first used in 1972 by the City of Corvallis, and were formally introduced and regulated by the state legislature in 1989. City of Molalla first implemented SDCs in 1991, shortly thereafter. The importance of SDCs in expanding, improving, and replacing public infrastructure can't be overstated, especially in Oregon, where property taxes are often paid on a small portion of a property's actual value. However, focusing only on the role of SDCs in public infrastructure misses the big picture. Some SDC-related rules and policies can produce outcomes that may not be desirable to the council and community. Under the current SDC regime in Molalla, any property that is not paid SDCs is subject to SDCs during development, redevelopment, or increased system impacts. In most cases, this makes sense and is in line with best practices throughout the state of Oregon and other states with SDCs. However, this is also an area of potential undesirability where legacy properties, that is, those properties that pre-existed system development charges for many years, are concerned. In short, these properties may have been developed for years prior to SDCs coming into existence, and when they change uses, redevelop, remodel, or add space, they become subject to the entire SDC bill as if the entire property was a brand new development. I'll give you guys kind of a real-world example of this. We have, obviously, in our downtown core, a lot of buildings that were developed long before SDCs were even a thing. And so they didn't pay SDCs, but they did pay taxes, and they did pay user fees, and they did pay into the system for the last however many years, 50, 70, 80 years. And then when they want to go and say, oh, I want to convert from a boutique, let's say, to a coffee shop. Well, a coffee shop has significant impacts as far as transportation especially goes. And so when you look at that, you say, okay, the bill for this coffee shop based on your square footage might be $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in SDCs for a building that's been there in operation for 75 years, and that may have had a coffee shop in it at one point, right?
Right.
So basically, the long and the short of what this policy does is try to find fundamental fairness in that system by saying, hey, if you can prove whatever the highest use you can prove is the amount of credit that the city will give you towards your SDCs. Obviously, if you've paid SDCs, that's really easy. We have record of that. We keep that on file. You'll get that credit, period. But if you can prove a higher use, if you can prove whatever use you can prove out, then you get that credit, and we apply that towards your new SDC bill. In a lot of cases, it will mitigate the SDC bill entirely. Now, that does present some concerns where it will be a reduction of SDCs for these legacy properties, but that can also be considered during your master planning process and SDC process. So this stuff can all be considered and worked into the calculus that goes towards that, but at the moment, what it does is, in staff's opinion, it produces a fundamental fairness element where, hey, you've been paying into this system and had this building here for 100 years, and it was a coffee shop 40 years ago, and you can prove it with a newspaper clipping or an old, certificate of occupancy or building permit, or you name it, right? Just something that's provable that we know actually existed and occurred. And then we're gonna give you the credit on your SDCs for that when you do your remodel, when you do your change of use, when you do your, whatever the case may be. So that's what we're kind of asking council to approve here, is a policy that says, hey, for these buildings that have been here forever, another good example might be, that's actually going on right now, is the middle school. That's a 70-year-old building, but obviously, that building has been there forever. And so charging fresh SDCs as if it were a brand new middle school, it tends to look unfair from the outside looking in. So that's kind of what we're asking, is that, hey, this property's been here, it's been developed, it's been in use. Staff is advocating to give those folks the credit that they would be due for that use. And we think it will help redevelopment, and we think it will help to be a lot more business friendly, because especially those businesses is where it really hits. You don't run into a lot of remodel or change of use in a 100-year-old house, right? So.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion to approve resolution number 2026-02, adopting a legacy system development charge policy by title only?
I move to adopt resolution number 2026-02, a resolution of the City of Molalla adopting a legacy system development charge policy by title only.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I would say that I really appreciate the fact that you have looked into this and come up with this. And it's another demonstration of how the city works to be fair with people.
Thank you very much.
We do our best.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Matt.
Anybody else? All right. Christie, we have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll?
Certainly. Counselor Gilmore.
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel.
Aye.
Counselor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Counselor Bysinia.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 7-0.
All right. Up next, housing production strategy update. Mr. Zinder, can we have your staff report, please?
All right, good evening, council. As you know, this city is in process of preparing readoption of the housing production strategy. We're looking to bring it to adoption in February, I believe the second February meeting. And we wanted to just come and let you know what some of the changes might be to try to meet DLCD's comments in the remand. And with that, I'm going to just turn it over to our consultant from 3J, Violet Brown. She says everything I'd say much better with pictures. So take it away.
All right, good evening. Thank you for letting me come back to my home away from home here. It's been a while, and letting me chat with you guys a bit about what I've been working on for the last 4 to 6 months around the HPS. So tonight I'll give a little bit of the remand overview, how it's working, what our schedule is. I'll revisit the housing needs analysis, which is the baseline document you guys adopted back in 2022-23. That serves as the foundation for that. None of that has changed for this document that you have in your packet this time. I'll go through what the 4 remand conditions were, what changes we made to the draft document from last time you saw it back in February of last year, and what our next steps are. So as you guys know, you adopted the HPS, the Housing Production Strategy, in February of 25. It then went into a public comment period. We got a number of very thoughtful comments back, I thought. Then DLCD had a long stretch of their review process, and in August we got a remand letter asking us to address 4 conditions. At the same time, we were given a grant to do that work, so that work has been underway since, I think we were under contract in October. At the same time, we did do another grant application to continue the Goal 14 work on the UGB, which I know we'll be talking about a little bit later tonight. So I will say this time around, DLCD has been very involved. We've had a number of long conversations. When we first got the remand in August, we had, I think, a 2-hour meeting with them, going through all of the points. They've been at every biweekly PMT call that we've had as we've talked about the process, as we've talked about how we plan to address these comments. They've been a part of the conversation all along.
And the review team has been part of it as well.
Exactly. So that has been very helpful. I think, anyway, that's all I'll say about that. I think it's been very helpful to have them at each part. And I do believe the packet included my memo over how we plan to address. So even before we made any revisions, you know, the retired lawyer in me kind of sketched out, this is exactly what you said, this is what you're citing, this is how we're going to address it. And we got all of the kind of nods with that, and then we went ahead and did the draft. They gave us comments on the draft, and we've made revisions based on it, based on those comments. So what we're going to do now is we did meet with our PAC, so getting the whole band back together, and discussed it with them. We had a very, I thought, thoughtful conversation last week. We got some questions from the county, some ideas. We're working this whole month to fold in all of that feedback that we hear. We're also required to send out copies to anybody who gave public comment. And so the people, the organizations that put in public comment last spring did receive a revised copy, and they have until the end of the month to give us written feedback on that. And I'll write a summary to DLCD letting them know what we heard from you guys, what we heard from the public, and if there's any changes to the draft that need to be made before it goes up for adoption, those will happen as well. So we're kind of workshopping this across the board to everybody who was involved the first time around. And so we're supposed to be on a schedule to have readoption by the beginning of March of 2026. So as you know, this is a slide you've seen before. The housing needs analysis that was done prior to my involvement was based on 1,996 new units by 2042, and that is based on population forecast of over 5,000 new people. And I have in here again that it assumes a vacancy rate of 4% and a certain household size. And then the H&A also divided that by percentages to just say that like 55% should be single family, 25 medium density, and 20% high density. And then kind of a statement that the units need to be affordable at all income brackets, but it doesn't give us any targets in terms of the number of units by income. It just sort of says affordability is an issue, right? So one of the things that we did in the last HPS that's, and I will say that when we got the grant, we got the remand, I will go through the conditions. None of them were about doing any more elaborate analysis or pulling, anything else. They were very confident in our analysis. So a lot of the charts and all of the things that you saw last time are all still relevant. So this takes the existing households by income bracket, and then what I did for this is take those 2,000 or so new units and said, if those ratios of income, families at different income brackets hold, how would we disperse those 2,000 units across income bracket? And that's what you see in the blue, is just taking those 2,000 units and kind of giving a percentage to each of the income brackets. Now, what has happened since last time I was here? So yes, we've gotten the grant to do the remand. We've gotten a new grant to do Goal 14 UGB work. One of the things that you guys asked me about before was that there was new population projections. And what I told you last time is still true. That was, every time I do a planning document that has a 2-year planning process, by the time you get to adoption, there's going to be new numbers. We don't usually go back and redo it. That it would require applying for more money from DLCD, which is not, in a future grant cycles, is not always a given. We have been lucky this time to get a grant for Goal 14 work. But so I did want to go ahead and pull this, because now that here we are back talking about this HPS, the other thing we talked about was that the owner rules, the new Oregon Housing Needs Analysis revamping, we didn't know what those were going to look like a year ago when we were talking about this. And we said if we redid it based on the new population projections, we'd be putting ourselves, instead of being kind of grandfathered in under the old rules, we'd be making ourselves subject to new rules that we don't know what they're going to be. We do now know. They're out. And so this I pulled from the December report. This is Mollalla's housing allocation. So instead of doing HNAs, we're now doing HCAs, housing capacity analysis, and the need. We're not going to be able to just do our own methodology and figure that out. It's going to be given from the state. And so the allocation for Molalla, instead of being 1,996 units, is 1,145 because it's based on the lower population projection. So I know we're talking about that later tonight. I am here to answer questions about that as well. I will say my firm and me specifically, I'm on the hook to do about 16 of these for various jurisdictions around Oregon. And so DLCD did call and say, you're going to be there, right? You'll answer some questions. So I am happy to share as much information as I know about the new owner rules and the process when we get to that conversation. But while we're talking about the housing need, I wanted to just mention these numbers, share this with you. One of the things that's different is they do now give you income target, unit targets by income bracket. So instead of just saying affordable to all units, they give them by income bracket. And so income brackets are based on AMI, area median income, which is set by Fannie Mae. I looked that up for you guys today. It's currently about $124,000 for a household. And so I went ahead and did the math of what 31 to 60% and what 60 to 80. So you could see those income brackets and how many units the new production targets are at each income bracket. So I'll come back to this slide if necessary in our conversation later. But whatever you decide later, you need an HPS on the books. Because if you start over again with these new numbers, it's a 2-year process. So this is, you're still going to need an HPS by next month to be adopted and be on the books in the meantime. So it doesn't really change what we're considering in terms of this HPS. I just thought I would give you both housing needs together so you could see the difference since I was reviewing it. So in the first report, one of the things that talking about affordability, I gave you guys a table in the report that has actual households at each income bracket, and then the ones that are estimated to be affordable at that income level. And so what you can see is right here, you have more households than available affordable units. And this is one of the things that the HPS is trying to get to, is how do we encourage production of housing affordable at that range. So affordable to households making somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000. I mean, if you look at that, you've got 365 households and about 72 units that are considered affordable for those households. So they're either, they're renting, or households they're renting units that are much more expensive than what they can afford. And again, affordability is defined as 30% of your monthly income being spent on housing costs, whether that's a mortgage, utilities, rent. So that's where you see families in Molalla getting sort of pinched right there, and that's one of the things that the HPS is trying to address. You're required by law to do a contextualized housing needs memo. I will say that was one of the things that was not a problem with the remand. In fact, staff can tell you when we were watching, or I told them, with all of the consultants, there was a big kind of recap at the end, and I'm proud to say that DLCD did use sections of our contextualized housing needs memo as examples of how to do it. So I was very pleased that even though we got remanded, there were parts of it they were happy with. And so that's where we take that need of 2,000 units and look at vulnerable populations and try to put those numbers in a context that's really relevant to your community members. And so again, affordability, we're looking at 76% of owner-occupied housing spends 30% or less of their of their income on housing costs. That means 24% are paying way more than that. 54% of renter-occupied housing, so just a little over half. Point-in-time counts are where they met with about 410 people across Clackamas County in 2023 for the point-in-time counts, looking at people who are experiencing homelessness or houselessness. This one is most relevant to the remand population living with a disability, represents about 16% of Mollalla's occupied housing. That is higher than the county and state averages. And that's one of the things they wanted to see in the remand, was that we have something that specifically speaks to that in our actions. Minority population is slightly higher than the county and lower than the state. Specifically, Hispanic Latino population is 16%, which is higher than the county of 9% or the state at 14%. When we did crunch the home ownership rates, there are home ownership rates that are slightly lower for some, but not most of the minority populations in Molalla. So that was not something that the numbers really pushed us to say that there was kind of a big discrepancy there currently. So the remand. So the first condition was they wanted us to revisit the burdens. So we're required for each of the actions to articulate if there's a burden that any of the community is going to experience based on the action. They wanted us to revisit it and to articulate mitigation steps that we would take in order to mitigate those burdens and refine our impact statements. So apparently, like I put in the document last time, that some of the impacts might be low to medium, depending on how an action was implemented. They really wanted us to say it was either low or medium or high. And again, this is something that we kind of used. I mean, I think everybody understands this process as they've been redoing this whole paradigm where, you know, there were a handful of HPSs that were adopted before ours kind of went up for adoption, and they got approved by the state with certain conditions. And we were, you know, all looking at them and saying, okay, well, this one got approved, so that must be okay. But, you know, again, they gave us the grant. They want us to do it a little bit differently. And so we went ahead and decided whether something was low or medium or high, and didn't provide any ranges in this one. And also to revisit the implementation schedule to see if there were any implementation items that we could do sooner. So we went ahead and looked at that in this one. Condition 2 was that one I just mentioned, address housing accessibility more directly. Since our contextualized housing need did show that we have a larger population living with disabilities, they wanted us to make a direct tie-in to an action that speaks directly to housing accessibility for people living with disabilities. And condition 3 was to elaborate on how these actions address affordability, specifically multi-unit housing. This is one where we were told, actually, they said just brag, because you did a lot of efficiency measures. We're rezoning to R2 and R3, creating a lot of capacity for multifamily. Put that information in here, right? They were like, you're already doing it, just give us more meat on the bone here so that we can show, you know, people who aren't familiar know what you're doing. And then condition 4 was addressing gentrification. Specifically, they took issue with the zombie housing action, saying that if we were directing our attention at blighted properties and getting them for redevelopment, isn't that going to possibly price out people in neighborhoods? Or if some of the blighted properties are naturally occurring affordable housing, then they get redeveloped, where are those people going? They wanted us to address gentrification specifically to that policy. So we did. So this is a slide you saw a year ago. Here are our actions that are part of the HPS that are specifically to the category of zoning and code changes. I have a list down here of all the stuff that's already being done. One of the things we did is we looked at the short-term rentals action, and we added a fee to fund affordable housing assistance. I think that was something that was very popular. It's something that is being done in Tillamook County. Acknowledged in the advisory committee meeting we had last week, short-term rentals aren't huge yet in Molalla. But as I've said to everybody who's asked this question, I wouldn't have predicted that they would be what they are now going in, so it's better to just get ahead of it. And if there is a mechanism that other counties and other places are using to say, hey, if you're going to use our community for short-term rental, then that's going to have an impact on us, and we should be able to charge a fee and use that fee to help offset some of the maybe infrastructure costs or programming costs around affordability in our community. The other thing that was added here is a policy that is part of DLCD's kind of list of policies, and it's something that was suggested to us, and we were given examples from Independence. I think has one of these policies and a couple of other HPSs included, which is a flexible regulatory concessions for affordable and accessible housing. So not financial incentives, but waiving certain regulatory requirements, whether it's related to, you know, kind of setbacks or other kind of technical things that can be waived to make an affordable or accessible unit for people living with disabilities, to have that pencil for developers where it may otherwise not. So it gives staff the ability to, you know, kind of waive some of those requirements. And again, we're not trying to make, it says this in the document, this isn't about making housing less safe or anything like that, but it's about working with developers to say, are there any of these requirements that are really making it impossible to build accessible, affordable housing? Are there any of these things in your way that we as a city can decide, yes, we're willing to waive that to make this happen? This is just creating that mechanism for some concessions.
Can I add a point real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add a quick point. These are all things that you guys will see and adopt. These are not carte blanche for staff to do whatever we want in these realms. These are things that will come to the council and be adopted as ordinances, so you guys will get a chance to look at them, modify them, tweak them how you see fit. So I just wanted to add that point.
Oh, very good point. And again, if anybody has any questions, you guys know, people who were here last year, just interrupt me, just let me know, and I will be happy to go back or answer any questions as they come up. But yeah, this is just letting people know that it is possible to ask for an exemption to certain requirements, and you know, lets developers know that the city's willing to discuss these things if they're trying to build affordable, accessible units for people living with disabilities.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, of course.
Going back to zombie houses,
Yes.
does DLCD actually know what those are?
I can't speak for DLCD, but I believe yes.
Because the word gentrification and zombie house, they don't make sense to me.
Yes. I think the idea is, well, can I answer your question in a minute? Because you'll see
That's
exactly.
fine.
I actually think that you will appreciate the way that we address this.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Get rid of the zombies.
Yeah, we'll see. So we didn't add anything. We didn't change anything for the reducing regulatory impediments. Those are all the same as they were from last year. Here again, under options for land acquisition, lease, and partnership, we had the address unmaintained zombie housing. And what we did was, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to keep a list of all of the code violations or code enforcement records for kind of the repeat offenders for these kind of problem properties, and just make that available to developers, you know, we said, actually, this will be part of like a partnership with people who develop affordable housing. So, because one of the things that came up in our public advisory committee was specifically our member who from Habitat for Humanity, who discussed that this would be a very helpful policy because the administrative costs of finding properties, tracking down ownership, you know, things like that, recognizing the available properties. If the city's already got these records and is already aware of these, making that part of a partnership with affordable developers of affordable housing, it sort of address those concerns from DLCD, saying, hey, this isn't, this would encourage those to be replaced with affordable units instead of just redeveloped at any market rate. Again, it isn't limiting that because anybody can go in and, you know, try to buy these properties. It's just about processing that information, using that information we already have from code enforcement, and making that part of a conversation or a partnership with developers of affordable housing, along with the flexible regulatory paradigm that we're talking about. So again, those are like 2 conversation pieces to really start talking with developers of affordable housing. And again, I think our representative from Habitat for Humanity was talking about, I think, 3 duplexes that they built in Silverton and how successful it was and how there's people with disabilities living there and stuff. And we were like, how do we get you to come and do that here? So again, identifying properties, working with them around the regulatory requirements that might be keeping it from penciling. Those are things that we're trying to do to show DLCD that, you know, the real target of this is to serve the community, and that we're trying to make sure that people are aware of that. And then we had some custom ones. Here we've got the SDC fee schedules. We haven't really made much change to those since last time. Sorry, I'll go back. We did talk about collaborating with Clackamas County on their homelessness and eviction prevention programming, and our representative from the county on our PAC last week did say she thought there were a number of really helpful programs at the county that Molalla could sort of tap into in a partnership. And so one of the things we will probably be doing is reaching out and sharing a draft of that in advance to see if they have any details that they want to add about specific connections, specific meetings, or specific programs that they think would be really helpful to Molalla, that we can get some information from the county about partnering with them. We also talk about options for financial resources. We list the low-income housing tax credit, which they were happy about. They did want us to explain exactly how the city would be supporting private developers who wanted to apply for that. So we gave a little bit more information about that program as well. And then we listed a couple of things that were discussed but were not actually listed as actions as part of this HPS, but are just things that have been explored and are always available should the city decide that they need to do anything in addition. Because the HPS is on an 8-year program cycle, and there's a review period at 4 years. And so if at 4 years you're looking at your production and saying, hey, we're not on target, we wanted in the HPS to allow some additional ideas that we had explored that aren't being adopted now, but are possibilities for the future, depending on how housing production goes forward in Molalla in the future. One of the things you'll see is they did ask us to give a new 1-page format. So each action is required to have like a 1-page description in the document. And so this is really busy. I'm not expecting you guys to read it all, but I will say that up here you'll see implementation timeline. I just looked at the implementation chart we had and told you whether this is something that's going to kick off in the next 1 to 2 years, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, or 7 to 8. Again, with that 8-year cycle on the HPS. The other thing I'll draw your attention to as you look through the document is under implementation. Over here we've got implementation steps. So they wanted us to really articulate that, this might require applying to DLCD for funding for technical assistance would be something that would help this action occur. DLCD is going to be putting out model code, and so a lot of these things around that are code changes, one of the first steps for implementation would be assessing the model code when it comes out and figuring out which pieces might be helpful, and if they can just be adopted as they are from the model code, that would save staff a lot of work, but assessing whether that's appropriate or not for Molalla, or if Molalla needs to do something else in terms of making those code changes. So as you go through, each of the actions now has these kind of articulated steps. What's also new is a lot of the things we were told that if there are no burdens, I have to say there are no burdens. So I guess we didn't say that last time. I just listed some externalities like neighbors may experience increased density or strain on infrastructure. And they were like, that's not a required articulation of a burden under the statute. So if there, and I said, I know, because there isn't one. And they said, well, now you have to say. So now you'll see the phrase, no identified burdens for target populations. So that's something that we changed on this one as well.
We didn't have to find burdens, as it turned out. So.
Yes. Again, the lawyer in me thought, well, if I didn't say there was one, it means because I didn't find one. But so we want to make sure that we, do everything as correctly as possible. Okay, so here's the part, this is for Mr. Danhoff. So mitigation of the burdens. So one of the phrase, so you'll see this phrase repeated throughout. There's a new table which has all of the actions in it, all of the burdens that we've identified and any mitigation. And so one of the burdens that I've said is that all redevelopment runs the risk of displacing low-income renters, both on the property being developed and in the surrounding neighborhood. This is from DLCD's materials that ADUs, cottage, and middle housing have a medium impact on preventing displacement. So if what's being redeveloped is they're going to develop an ADU or they're going to come in with a cottage cluster, that those are typically have a medium impact on gentrification because those are more affordable units that are coming in. And that the city will be planning and continuing monitoring the production of housing in Molalla. So again, it's just that kind of statement of saying all redevelopment runs the risk of displacing whoever was living there before it got developed, and that we acknowledge that, and that the city will be monitoring as development occurs in Molalla, the city will be monitoring the impact it is having on the existing households who live in those areas. So low-income renters are statistically disproportionately seniors, people living with disabilities, communities of color, and other protected classes. So that's an acknowledgement that was somewhere in the HPS before. It's a little more highlighted in this one. That planning and continued monitoring with attention to displacement in gentrifying areas, maintaining a relationship with Clackamas County Health, Housing, and Human Services regarding available services and assistance. So if development is occurring and the city is aware that there's naturally occurring affordable housing, so maybe it's rundown or, sometimes we see this with manufactured housing parks, things like that. If it's being redeveloped and the city is aware that people are being displaced, that making sure that they go that extra step and connect them with county resources for eviction prevention or relocation assistances or things that are available at the county. So again, this is about the city just connecting them to resources at the county level, and that these HPS actions are designed as a whole to support low-income housing, and that the implementation strategy aims to offset burdens on at-risk communities. And what I mean by that is when we look at the implementation, if there's an action that we know might trigger redevelopment, and in a real world, that means that some people might get displaced, because if there was a renters there now and somebody buys the property and they're going to build homes there and stuff, it's probably not for the people who were renting, right? They're going to be displaced. We're aware of that. If we're looking at strategies, then we're going to want to implement something right around the same time that is really targeted to help those communities. So when we look at the implementation and how we're staggering implementation, we're thinking of staff hours, we're thinking of being efficient, we're thinking of being realistic, but we're also saying, some of these actions are going to naturally have unavoidable consequences, and we're going to try to pair them with other actions that may be helping those same communities. So this is that implementation. So that was kind of what went into kind of moving some of these around. Again, also articulating implementation steps, like applying for funding from DLCD, assessing the model code, whether or not there's something in the model code that can just be used by Molalla as is. Once we articulate those, some of these things we can start to implement as soon as the model code's available, which will be this spring. So then it kind of moves by articulating the steps, it allows us to move implementation up a little bit on some of these. So we did revisit the implementation schedule. So again, I mentioned this before, we'll refine the report based on the feedback that we hear. We will then come back and share and bring the HPS as it's refined to adoption to you guys. I think the second meeting in February is what we're planning on. And then the requirement is that it be uploaded to the DLCD portal within 10 days of adoption, and they know that that will probably be early March, and that seems to be fine with them in terms of the schedule. Any questions? on the HPS. I will take lots and lots of questions on the rest too.
Comments or questions? Christie, is there anybody who wishes to speak on this?
Not at this time, Mayor.
All right. Well, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your update. Let's see, up next, daycare SDCs, Mr. Corthell.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening again, Council. So I was talking about us taking little bites of SDCs here as we move into the main process. This one's just for discussion tonight, and staff's looking for direction from council on this. The long and the short of it is that when our SDCs were implemented back in April of '22, there was a selection of ITE codes that were retained from the 9th edition of the ITE. That's the Institute of Traffic Engineers. That's where you figure out your transportation SDC. And the 9th edition has daycares listed at 12.34 p.m. peak hour trips, which is fairly astronomical because most of those are really pass-through trips as well. We try to look at endpoint destination. I'm not really even sure how they came up with this number in the 9th, but they're engineers and I'm not, so I'm sure they had really good reasoning. But the 10th edition has a much more fair trip generation of 4.66 p.m. peak hour trips. And that's actually the addition that your existing SDC resolution refers us to when the code is not readily available in the set of codes that you adopted. We go to the 10th edition. What we're asking you guys to do is let us know if you want to change that to 4.66, and we can bring back a resolution to do that in advance of the full SDC policy and align it with the 10th edition of the IT manual. And we'll actually look at the 11th too and make sure what we're looking at rates wise and figure out what to bring back to you guys there. But one of the points, the reason this kind of came up is that, again, when you guys adopted your EOA, one of the workforce initiatives was to prioritize childcare as a workforce readiness issue.
Right.
This childcare is a commonly identified need for working households if all adults are working or working unusual hours, et cetera. This topic is increasingly raised as an important part of attracting and maintaining an available workforce. Home-based childcare businesses are also usually a category of self-employment. So staff's just looking for direction from the council, and if you guys have any questions, of course, we're here to answer them, but if you guys would like to see this updated to the newer edition of the IT manual to a code that seems to align much more realistically with the actual impact from staff's perspective, then we would bring you all back a resolution on that.
How often do those, the books come out? I mean, is it like a yearly thing?
It's every few years.
Every 2 years?
Yeah, every I think about every 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And when a new book comes out, we don't go in and make sure that we're up to all the standards that are in the new book?
No, you don't. You guys update your SDCs. Everyone updates their SDCs on a schedule. But sometimes when there's nuances or oddities like this, then this is how we would reconcile that issue. And this hadn't really come up until the EOA was adopted, and we did some research and noticed the discrepancy.
It's good.
Is there anybody that this would have, the old numbers or the higher numbers would have affected in the city, do you know?
I don't.
The only thing I said to that is it may have deterred some childcare businesses from developing.
Okay.
I'm for it.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We will bring you guys back a resolution on that.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, up next, urban growth boundary update. Mr. Corthell will have your staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to actually veer away from my staff report on this one. That staff report was written basically the day of. I had to kind of get that out to get it on the agenda. There was some chatter over the airwaves, and it was important for me to bring it to your guys' attention. We've since then we took what we have here to Planning Commission. They requested more information. We thought that was a very, very astute recommendation, and staff was already in the process of trying to obtain more information. And just today, we were, or yesterday, just yesterday at about 4 p.m., Mr. Zender was able to meet with the LCD and get some clarifications on some of this information. So a lot of this, he and I will both be kind of tag teaming on for questions and that sort of thing. But what I want to do is start by drawing your attention to an email from Kelly Reed from DLCD. This is what kind of started the conversation here. Obviously we read from bottom to top with emails, email chains. And in the first one, she was speaking to Mr. Gilbert and said that she spoke with Dan last week to make sure, Dan being Mr. Zender, make sure that he understands DLCD would absolutely be supportive of the city using the newer forecast. That's the population forecast and housing allocations that Ms. Brown just kind of went over with you. And that we would offer funding for them to make that switch. So she's since clarified, and that clarification is at the top of this, that it's really not that straightforward. There's not a pot of money sitting there that's been offered to us or anything like that. The city would be able to, well, and I'll let Mr. Zender speak more to this point, but basically the city would be able to apply for grants or repurpose an existing grant and leave a funding gap for that work, and we could reapply or apply for a new grant for that work. Of course, none of that funding is guaranteed. It's based on budget levels, and they are competitive grants, right? They only have so much money to give around. So that clarification, I think, was important, and one that I was really trying to draw out to make sure that that was the case, because obviously if they've got a pot of money sitting there for you guys to do this work, that's a whole different story that you hadn't been told. And that's just not the case. So I'll let you guys read what Ms. Reed wrote, but at the end of the day, ultimately, that's kind of the options, is that there's potential grant funding subject to budget, the state biennial budget, as well as competitive award of those grants. And or the city could take the Goal 14 money, which I call the Go North money, and repurpose it to go back to some of these other studies. It would not cover the full bill. Where the rest of that money comes from, again, that potentially could be grant applications or the city's own funds. And then again, we would also not have the funding then to be able to look at the Go North situation without obtaining another grant. So that's the short story. I'm going to let Mr. Zender, he was able to clarify some additional points and put them together for you guys. I think you have them there. Some of this stuff is really complex. We expect a lot of questions. It's confusing. I think it's even confusing for the folks that are administering it right now, that being DLCD and your city staff, because these are brand new rules that have come out that, you know, no one has really had a good chance to go over with a fine-tooth comb. We've read them, we've looked at them, but with some of this statute, it's very, very complex, and you really need to fine-tooth comb it, because it's a very jumbled analytical chain. It's, you know, if this, then that, but not this, if that, and so there's some of that going on. So it can be pretty confusing. So if you're confused by what I wrote the first time, you're right. You know, it's a confusing situation, but I think we have a little bit more clarity, and then also we wanted to obtain any more questions that you guys might have. And so, yeah, I'll let Mr. Zender kind of go over what he learned.
All right, and similarly, we've got Ms. Brown here, and she may piggyback on some of the points that I'm making, where her expertise is a little more robust. So the first, you know, there was a number of considerations that came up when we first started talking about this, and so I'm just sort of going to go over, you know, all the points of our sequential work plan, starting with that. If we were to update our population numbers, there was some initial discussion, and I'm not sure if any of that came to your purview, but that we might have to abandon our sequential work plan because the resultant urban growth boundary expansion might be under 30 acres for residential lands. In subsequent discussions, I reminded DLCD that, hey, we're also looking in for our urban growth boundary to bring in Ivor Davies Park, which in itself is about 42 acres. We're looking at employment lands annexation, or not annexations, but expansions, which is part of why we chose the sequential work plan, in addition to the residential. So we're not in a situation where we would be under 50 acres and then be subject to another process. There's a separate process for an expansion that's under 50 acres. So even if our residential number ended up there wouldn't be a requirement to abandon the sequential work plan. I received email from DLCD right before the meeting that said there may be some advantages to abandoning the sequential work plan in that situation, and those are things that they're really things that we can discuss later because they're not really there's not funding associated with it. But doing that in itself wouldn't abandon the work that we've done. So the second piece is with the new HNA, now HCA, because the work would result in a UGB expansion later than 2027. So we do this housing capacity analysis, we'd go back out for money to finish our goal 14, and then do the UGB expansion at the end of that. That would put us under the new owner rules for both the housing capacity analysis and any work that would be done subsequent to that. From what we understand, that the implications of that is that the new owner rules have a much more rigorous buildable lands inventory analysis, and you may want to jump in on that point.
I can jump. Again, I do a lot of housing work across Oregon, and I can tell you that we were, in addition to this remand and then also the grant that I helped to write for the UGB work, my firm and myself in particular, we're doing a ton of these. Now, the new rules just came out. We don't have guidance. Usually they have these guidance documents where they really walk you through what the new rules mean. Those don't exist yet. For the new rules, they're hoping in the spring. So for the last 2 months, I've been doing scope of work for each of these, trying to put together a budget for what it would look like under the new rules. So under the new owner rules, you have to do an HCA, the housing capacity analysis. As I mentioned earlier, you're given these numbers, right? So each jurisdiction is going to be given what your need is. What you then have to do is update your buildable lands inventory. So lots of GIS, going through and looking at what's buildable, what's vacant, what's partially vacant, how many acres you have at each plan designation or zoning, categories, right? So, and how many units could be produced on that, right? So you're looking at very specific rules, new rules under buildable lands inventory. You then take that and do a development-ready lands inventory, which we haven't done before. So those are looking at with existing infrastructure. So say that pipe is just what that pipe is. Not what does the zone allow, but what's actually buildable based on existing infrastructure and how many units and how many acres per type of zoning designation. So you have this kind of more elaborate analysis that needs to be done on development-ready lands. I'll then take those and do what's called a residential land need analysis, where I take, okay, so how much land do we need for residential? So we've got this BLI, we've got development-ready land, we're looking at historically what's actually being built with the density, like the historic densities by zone, not just what's allowed, but what's actually being built. And then deciding, does the UGB need to be expanded? Does your HPS need to be changed to say that you need to put in more infrastructure or something in order to get the amount of housing that you're gonna need? So those are all, so cities put in on this grant cycle to do an HCA and an HPS, and almost all of the ones that were granted only for the HCA, because with all this BLI work and development-ready land inventory work and a new contextualized housing needs memo, which we just did as part of our HPS, which I do think would stand up fairly well under the new rules. All that work, that's all that can be done under this grant cycle. They're telling us you're not going to get to an HPS. That's a future grant cycle. Those cities are gonna do the HCA, they're gonna do their contextualized housing need, they're gonna do all this buildable lands inventory, and then they'll have to put in a grant application next cycle to update to write an HPS. So for you guys, what that would mean is there's an existing grant, the $115,000 that was granted under the Goal 14 work. Based on the budgets that are still in draft form, that for other projects, that seems to be the right amount to do an HCA, a CHN, and all of this buildable lands inventory. It would take about 18 months. The grants have to be finished by fiscal year 2027, and most of them are probably going to be kicking off in February. So if that's something that Molalla wants to do, that's possible. It sounds like DLCD would let us, which again wasn't true last time I was here. And it does mean that if you spend that money on this, you'll be applying next cycle to then take those new numbers and move forward with Goal 14 work. Now, a lot of the Goal 14 work that I did last time I was here would still be applicable. I still have all the files. I still have all the study area is still the study area. A lot of that is still, but we would be working with a different need and a couple of different rules. I will say under the new owner rules, one of the things that has changed that might mean that you would end up tweaking your HPS based on the new HCA, the HPS that you haven't yet adopted, but let's assume that goes well. You would probably have to tweak, because the new owner rules do have more elaborate engagement specifically around tribal communities. Yep. Which we didn't do the first time around. It wasn't part of the conversation the first time around. It is now, and it's legally required. So that would be something that would have to be done under the new program. And if that, if something much like our the first time around, we recognized that we had a larger than usual kind of population living with disabilities. If something came out of that engagement that required being addressed in the HPS and nothing in the existing HPS spoke to that need, we would need to update it. But I will say DLCD sort of agreed that in this case, the update to the HPS would probably be minimal. It might be adding a policy or two or adding some information about the engagement that we did. It wouldn't be writing the HPS all over again. But it would, once that work would be done under the new allocation, we'd have to revisit it and say, is the HPS that we have on the books sufficient based on everything we just learned?
Although I think we would have to add some updates to show this AMI piece, to show that the policies that we have meet the AMI targets.
But it wouldn't be a full rewrite. It would be looking at it and saying, now based on this new, 18 months of work that we've done, is there anything that we have to change about the HPS, or is it sufficient the way it is? One person from DLCD was like, well, but your need is less. It's not like you're gonna have to go like above and beyond and it's not like the need is double, right? It's not like the HPS has to do a lot more heavy lifting than it was. It would be a lower amount of need. But again, it's a question of the engagement. If there's any particular at-risk or any need in the community that wasn't brought up the first time around, do we have enough policies that speak to that?
Yeah, and Ethan Stuckmeyer reiterated that point yesterday, sort of more authoritatively, that because the need is less, there wouldn't be likely to need, that the policies are likely there already.
We would just have to audit it a bit and say, do we have enough or do we need to add it? And I think that actually, unlike other cities that would be writing an HPS from scratch, I actually think in the 18 months that you have and under the grant you have, you can probably update the HPS as well.
That's,
you could do it at the same time and just say, okay, as we go through adoption with the HCA and the new BLI and the new rules, is there are you recommending any changes to the HPS? And I think they could be done at the same time.
So the other point I'll bring up in terms, please.
I had a question, and I'm not sure if I'm understanding this correctly or not, so I apologize. So if we were to look at changing the numbers, reading through the packet the other day, I understand we'd have to adopt the HPS. We'd be abandoning the Go North review. For now. Would that not force us to go south then to
I'll get there in a moment, yeah,
Okay.
I'll get there in a moment.
It's a good question.
It's
Very good question.
Yeah.
and one we were very concerned about, so.
Right.
Thanks. All right, thanks.
You're gonna answer that, or do you want me to say something?
I will get to it in a moment. I want to stay on the
Yeah,
matter
go
of the new owner rules.
Right.
The other piece I got from DLCD, so there's one of the things that the BOI HNA that we did do was evaluate what the capacity was, the existing housing capacity was in the city, as in for the existing land, how much, how many houses can be built. Now that's gonna change because we have brought in new, basically very developable residential lands with our efficiency measures work last summer. But as far as the lands that we previously looked at under the BLI that were not a part of that, the general feeling is that we'd have a smaller existing capacity because of what's defined as the threshold for what is developable is a little higher. So, some of the lands that we have as developable, or the threshold was like if it's over an acre and half the land is undeveloped, then you have to include that. Well, some of that might have included, a house that has no access to the back, and then there's a back area, and then there's a creek in some of this stuff wasn't really developable, and I think that stuff gets kicked out with the new HCA, which actually makes some sense. It does make some sense. So yeah, Violet touched on the points with regards to, our HPS would need an update. It's still very highly advised that we go forward with the current HPS
We have to.
and do it and start implementing that work as that would be that would carry over.
Yeah. The only thing I was gonna add is we've been working to do the scope of work for the grant for the UGB work, which was to include, really detailed cost estimates. And to revisit the Goal 14 work that we did before. So we've been working on drafting that scope and drafting that budget and what that would look like, at the same time that I've been working on drafting scopes and budgets for HCA work for other jurisdictions. Again, they're right on the same timeline, and all of the DLCD projects are set to kick off next month. But again, it wouldn't be saying that you would be abandoning any methodology with the Goal 14. It would just be kind of going back to revisiting the need and doing this much more elaborate. So in figuring out what this work is, I've been pulling in our GIS specialists, and we're working currently this week to get DLCD to sign off exactly on the methodology. Like, what data are you gonna let us use for this development ready? What if smaller jurisdictions don't have all of this in GIS with exactly the pipes, or what, you know what I mean? Like, we want to make sure that we know exactly what DLCD is going to require us to do, because I'm sitting here trying to guess how many man hours that's going to take to actually figure this stuff out and make sure that we're budgeting it appropriately. So we've been working really closely with DLCD, and again, 3J, we're engineering and planning firm, so I've been working with everybody who knows what this stuff is to say, okay, let's sit down. How many hours do you need? This is what the statute says you have to produce. What does that actually look like? And we're going to get DLCD to sign off on our methodology before we're even under contract. So.
And that's the other places, in areas that you reminded me, in areas where we have maybe undersized infrastructure, some of that capacity that we initially considered may no longer apply. If we have undersized infrastructures, it's not going to, withstand a substantial addition to it. So that's. I'm fairly confident we'd end up with a smaller existing capacity than we have right now. Due to that, as Violet mentioned, so then once we have our housing capacity analysis, we would need to go back, apply for a new competitive grant to complete updates to the Goal 14, potentially HPS. HPS may be covered with the existing grant that we have, and UGB amendment. We have received confirmation that the $115,000 grant that we've received is fungible, so we could be transferred over to this housing capacity analysis work. But then we need to go out for a new grant to get the additional Goal 14 work and the work that we just received completed. With regards to whether we receive that grant, I feel a lot better about that than I did a few days ago. The key point being if the funding is available, which can never be guaranteed. But and I've had a little bit of conflicting information. I need to go back and do the research on where it comes from. But basically, something that has changed from where we stood even in the summer is that now cost considerations can be taken into account for impracticability of developing land. And they actually set specific thresholds for that. That if it's 4 times more expensive to serve area Y than area Z, then you can throw out area Y, even if it's higher priority land. And that's a change from where we stood just a few months ago. So to the extent that money is available, I do now think if we went for it, there's not necessarily something, this isn't necessarily the one time that we get to do it, that we thought it might have been.
Yeah, I'll jump in again, no one's shocked, but that not only was ONA new, but I also was involved a little bit in some of the rulemaking because Division 21 and 24, urban reserves and urban growth boundary expansions were also rewritten. So there's some new definitions around feasibility. There was a whole, I was asked to write a memo on the difference, use my legal brain and write a memo on the difference between suitable, feasible, developable, because they're kind of treated differently in different sections of the code. So that has been rewritten. So again, it wouldn't be starting from scratch, but there are new rules again with the ONA, but then also when it comes time to the Goal 14 work and the annexation and UGB expansion, there are some new definitions. And the move has been, I remember sitting here a year ago and saying to Mac, did you see that email I sent you? There's some discussion about that whole feasibility and kind of a little bit of a lessening in terms of the threshold, specifically to urban reserves, but then what impact that would have on urban growth boundary rules as well. So there are some new definitions and some new rules that would need to be revisited. So I would think that would be something that would be compelling for a grant application. I write a lot of those as well, to say, hey, you've got new rules. We're in the middle of doing this. We need to do it right, and we need some funding to do it. So.
We kind of led the charge on that impracticability standard. If you guys recall, that was one of the big areas that we had problems with because the word was being changed from the statute, basically. So that good to see that they were responsive, or the rulemakers were responsive on that.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise from that. The last 2 points, so our economic opportunities analysis and housing capacity analysis, we haven't adopted economic opportunities analysis, and they're considered separate entities. So if we chose to update our housing capacity analysis, there would be no obligation to also update that document. Last point, there was the efficiency measures, which were part of our work plan. We do have to revisit density, which is something we've discussed in the past. That came from our approvals of the round of efficiency measures that we did. So we would likely have to revisit efficiency measures. From what I gather, there's not work that we would have to do for that we wouldn't have had to do anyways, that we wouldn't have had to do. So I think the efficiency measures are more or less unaffected. The one point being, we will be going out for a grant with ODOT this summer, and if we wanted to do some more rezoning, we could after that point, because there, as many of you remember, there were some commercial and industrial properties we were looking at rezoning, and we didn't end up doing that because of conflicts with our existing TSP. So those are the salient points that I have, and I open it up for questions. It's a boondoggle, and we're just starting to figure out our way through it, and please let us help you
So in answer to his question about throwing out the north and,
Yes, so the answer there was that it's thrown out in terms of we wouldn't be using the existing grant money or towards that, but I don't think we lose the opportunity to apply for a new grant to go north because of the new considerations around practicability. We would still get the opportunity to go in and study the opportunity to go north versus south and what those cost considerations could make. Now, and remember, with this one, we're not guaranteed to go north with this grant. It's just a study to say, hey,
Right.
this is,
Right.
this is way too expensive to go. Do you accept our proposal to go north? And can you want to wait?
Want to just correct a quick point of order here real quick. If you are finished with your staff report, now would be the time for us to receive public comment. We do have public comment to
Oh, sure.
receive.
sure,
And then, of course, staff, or pardon me, council will absolutely have another opportunity to ask questions, but we need to take public comment now,
All right.
please.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go to staff public comment, and up first will be Mr. Jim Gilbert. If you could come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mayor Kaiser, City Council members. My name is Jim Gilbert. I live in the Liberal area, 28696 South Kramer Road. I've been growing unique and unusual nursery stock there for 40-plus years. And thanks for having us at this meeting, and it's a fascinating conversation. I testified before you in person and also submitted testimony in December. Tonight I'm here in a different role as the president of the Molalla Community Planning Organization. And the organization, there are many CPOs in Clackamas County. I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with them, but they've been around for a long time. And they are basically authorized by the county to represent the residents and businesses around the cities, various cities and towns in the county. We met last night here in town, and over 40 people came, which was really encouraging. We discussed the city's planning work, the process that they're undergoing, the use of the different population figures, and the various impacts that those figures have upon our community. Eventually, after talking about all that, we decided and we voted unanimously to ask you, the City Council, to advise your planning division to use the updated population forecast numbers. And there are a number of reasons for that, of course. Also, I want to just mention that I hope all of you got the written testimony that I sent in this morning, and I also have extra copies if anybody would like a paper copy of it. The negative impacts of there's a big difference between, of course, those two population forecast numbers, 2,000 people, and the impacts are quite different. The negative impacts, of course, if any of you, as I just did today, want to drive south during the afternoon, late afternoon, or north in the morning, you notice that there are a few cars on the road. Their figures are that probably around 90% of the people who live in Molalla don't work here. They drive somewhere else to work, and adding another 5,000 people would be a huge increase in traffic on the roads. Another issue is the water in the Molalla River. I hope that you all got the testimony from Molalla River Watch from Alex Worth, who sent it out. There's a lot of concern about the river, and I suspect that many of you have noticed that in September there's not much water in it. And I know it's the main water supply for the city. So there's reason to be concerned about that. And again, thinking about increasing population, how that's going to affect that water supply in the environment when the river could conceivably be dried up by it. It's hard to imagine, but I know that Alex was, this group is very concerned about it, and
I need you
as
to
are
wrap
we.
it up, sir. That's 3 minutes.
Must I stop?
I need you to wrap it up. If you wrap it up real quick.
Okay, so listening to your conversation earlier is very interesting to me, and I thought about one word that I think you as a city council might want to think about is the word vision, because there's a lot of detail in all of the, I heard you talk about a lot of stuff. It's hard to follow all the nuts and bolts of that. But the idea of vision and what kind of a community do you want here in Molalla, how livability and happiness of the people here, I think that should influence your decision about what population figures to use, because more is not necessarily better. And if you want to see what happens,
Sir,
Yeah.
you had 3 minutes.
Sure.
I asked you to wrap it up. I gotta call
Okay.
it.
Well,
Okay? I gotta be fair to everybody.
sure.
I gotta bring the next person up.
I'm fine.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Washington County would be a place to go.
Up next will be Corwin DeMayo. If you could come to the mic, state your name and address you resided, please.
Yep. My name is Corwin DeMayo. I live just south of town, 32302 South Rachel Larkin Road. And yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. Before I start, I always want to say thanks, as always, to Dan and Mac and Clarissa for continuing to engage with us on this. You've been super supportive and helpful of our participation in the whole process, so appreciate it as always. But yeah, so I've spoken at a number of city council meetings regarding the UGB expansion. I'm here to discuss a few additional factors and again urge you to consider to use the correct numbers in your planning process. Firstly, the DLCD, as discussed, has formally indicated their commitment to working alongside the city to identify creative financial solutions for any potential funding gaps in the planning process. Specifically, they've offered to facilitate this pivot by converting existing planning grants potentially and utilizing other general funds to ensure that the city's data is accurate and legally defensible going forward. It currently remains to be seen if or how much additional funds will even be necessary to complete a correction like this. However, if a funding gap were to materialize, the cost of correcting course now and the associated staff time would be immaterial compared to the millions of dollars in future infrastructure debt, social displacement, and environmental damage an incorrect expansion would cause. An upfront cost now is not a compelling reason to avoid doing the right thing. Secondly, in the 50 years of urban growth boundary research that in Oregon that is available, I was not able to find a single peer-reviewed study which found that a drastic overexpansion of a UGB led to long-term positive price impacts in the city performing the expansion. In fact, the opposite was almost always found to be true. This is because UGBs are not islands. They are part of an integrated statewide structure, and as such, price dynamics are systemic, not isolated. Deliberate overexpansion creates misaligned growth out of step with natural system-wide balancing. We don't lower prices for locals by overexpanding. We create a spillover magnet in our city for higher income commuters from the Portland metro area who have unmet demand in their own cities. These buyers outbid Molalla families. We aren't building or expanding to make room for our neighbors. We're inviting regional and out-of-state demand to artificially inflate our land values and drive home prices even higher. Thirdly, we also need to be honest about system or site development costs of future expansion. While developers may pay initial fees, these are one-time payments for forever liabilities. Developers also pass these fees off to new buyers by baking them into the cost of the houses they build, which drives up the median home price in our area. These fees will not cover medium or long-term maintenance of the pipes or pavement. Because Oregon's Measure 50 caps property tax increases at 3%, which consistently trails the price of infrastructure inflation, overexpansion almost immediately creates a fiscal deficit. When the developer leaves, the maintenance bill stays with the city. This forces existing taxpayers to subsidize the sprawl or face constant bond measures or levies. To be clear, choosing the 2024 data is not redoing the work, it's doing the right work the right way. The city has a rare, narrow window to fix its future trajectory. Following the corrected forecast is the only way to keep Molalla affordable for the people who actually live and work here. Failing to act will cause systemic harm, make living in this community more expensive, and will further erode our collective quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Up next is Zoe, is it Conley?
Yes.
Come on up, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Zoe Conley. I live at 14776 South Maxburg Road. I'm a little bit more of a newcomer to Molalla. I've lived here for about 3.5 years, and I wanted to share my experience, kind of what brought me to this community in support of using the revised population numbers. So I moved here 3.5 years ago. I bought a farm to continue my business and build for my future. And part of why I picked Molalla was the land, the community, and the focus on agriculture. I grew up in Ridgefield, Washington, which some of you might know has experienced explosive growth. When I moved there as a little kid, it was a farm community. There were cornfields everywhere, and that is not the case now. Despite city and county planning, the growth has outpaced infrastructure and services. That's really diminished the quality of life for residents, and that's what led me to move here. A brand new school opened. It was already over capacity. The day it opened, they were talking about having to create new solutions, open portables, because there were too many students. We already have challenges with our schools in Molalla. Rising land values and taxes reduced opportunities and pushed a lot of people who wanted to be connected to farming out of the city. These experiences shaped my decision, and I really saw the agricultural tradition within the community as a big reason to come here. My concern isn't growth itself. You know, growth is positive, and I think this is a great place to live. More people should enjoy it. However, these updated population forecasts still account for significant growth. Planning on the outdated assumptions risks unnecessary expansion, as other people have mentioned, and creates higher long-term costs for taxpayers, increased congestion, and avoidable impacts for farmland, forest land, and the Molalla River watershed. I don't want to see Molalla fall victim to the kind of overgrowth that I experienced in my community. I want this community, where I now feel like I belong, to grow in a way that honors the existing culture and community and maintains that quality of life. We can align the plans with current data in a way that ensures growth supports current residents, protects agriculture, and preserves that quality of life that draws people to Molalla. I respectfully ask the City Council to use the most accurate population information available so that Molalla can grow in a way that aligns with the community's values and protects the land for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Zoe. All right, council, questions, comments for our panelists? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out to City Council that there was an additional, there was an additional submission this evening. It was from Alex Worth, and that was with Molalla River Watch, as Mr. Gilbert referred to. Everyone's testimony who spoke with you this evening will also be available. Their submissions will also be available as part of these meeting minutes. I did receive submissions from each individual.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, does council have any questions of staff? Yes, oh, yes, sir.
I'd like to go back to my initial question there, about kind of how this trickle-down effect would work if we, decided to move with the new numbers. My understanding was we still have to adopt an HPS, we still have to adopt something regarding the urban growth boundary, which would, my understanding, again, cause us to go south at least initially until we have revised data. Can you explain that a little bit, sir,
Yeah,
how that
I
would work?
I can absolutely take that. So our, as we sit here today, whatever land comes in, save for the EOA, because there's some exceptions to look at larger format parcels, any land that comes in would be scheduled to go south. Part of the Goal 14 analysis that we were going to do, and that we would do either way, was purposed to try and go north, to try and prove the case that going south was not fiscally practicable, in their words. And so basically the question between going south and going north is it won't be answered until that Goal 14 analysis is done, no matter how much land it is. That Goal 14 analysis will be submitted to DLCD, and then they'll make a decision on whether or not we get to go there. Now, the one potential well, actually, the big difference is that as we sit here today, a Goal 14 analysis doesn't have a standard. We have to make a case and convince people. And one of the big things when I was saying we kind of led the charge on this was that DLCD was interpreting that as impossibility, which changes the word of the statute from impracticability. And that was one of our big concerns, was that they weren't hearing the good reasons that we had to go north, because they're not just, hey, that's better land and all that good stuff. It's that we have to put in pump stations to serve the south side of town. And those things are very, very expensive. And so, excuse me, as well as tapping into the existing system and increasing capacities in the existing system, et cetera. So all those things, that it actually may be an advantage under the new rules. In a completely objective reading, they've provided a standard now, that if we proceeded under the new rules, which would incorporate using the new population estimates, there's a standard. If it's 4 times the cost, then it's impracticable. Today, as we sit here, we don't have a standard. We're trying to argue in a vacuum. So that it actually probably would be an advantage towards that, because now there's something that if we hit the 4 times mark, then we get to go north, right? Or we get to go to different lands. If we don't hit the 4 times mark, then we don't, is what it seems like. The new rules would be under a new process, or a redone process. Is that tracking, or?
Yeah, I think so.
So they had this impracticability standard, but no one knows what it means. Right now. It doesn't have a meaning. Under the new rules, it has a meaning.
Right.
The meaning is 4 times the cost.
So I think there's nothing that was under the old rules that would allow you to do something that you won't be able to do under the new rules. It's not like if you don't do it now, you're missing out on some old rules that were more beneficial. And my understanding is that the expansion would then wait for the HCA. It's not like you would expand and then change it. You would just would do the HCA under the new rules, move forward, and then I'm less certain than Dan is over what this new development-ready lands, if it's gonna be. We know the need is almost half of what it was. It went from 2,000 to about 1,000. But once you get in and dig into the development-ready land and the BLI, I don't know what the capacity is gonna say in terms of how many acres you need to go. And that would be under the new rules that Mr. Corthell just did a great job of explaining in terms of that, like, feasible versus impracticable. So feasible seems like a much lower standard than impracticable. I mean, I was told that impracticable is like, oh, we have to build a bridge over a river, like a new treatment facility isn't impracticable, right? That's just part of the job of doing business as a city. So it sounds like it's a little bit better. You're not missing out on anything that's available today if you go forward. It's just a question of, if you go forward under the existing H&A, are you taking land that you aren't gonna actually need? Because the need is less.
So I think, and I was kind of wanting to kind of nutshell this for you guys a little bit.
Please.
Yeah, because it makes your head spin. You guys are faced with a really difficult and nuanced decision. It's very, very rare that a population estimate in a growing city would be adjusted downward. And a lot of that is due, and I think Mr. DeMeo, editor, has provided some good information on why that happened. And we've also looked into it, but it had a lot to do with COVID and, generally folks not being in the office, right? I mean, there's more to it than that, but it was just kind of one of those situations that you don't typically see a downward adjustment. Usually if you'd be going with the new numbers, you'd be going up. And especially in a city that, we've had no problems with growth. Right, and so you guys have a really weird and nuanced decision that I mean, Dan's been a planner for 30 years. Have you ever seen that?
There it is.
I had to work
Can't
that
get
in.
away from it.
Have you ever seen that? A downward?
No, I have not.
So you guys have a really weird situation presented to you. At the end of the day, with all the information we've received, I think really the question you want to ask yourself is, if you wanted to grow more or grow less. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And if you use the new numbers, yeah, staff will go back and have to do, you know, some work and redo some things and all that good stuff. It sounds like we have some funding available and that they're all but, you know, saying, hey, yeah, we're gonna support this, you know, in terms of the carry-on funding that would be needed for the Go 14 and UGB amendment. So it's a grow more, grow less discussion, and if you think that the population is gonna hit 15,500 or whatever it says up there, in that 20-year timeline, then you'd wanna grow more. If you don't, then you'd wanna grow less, and also you'd wanna consider, you know, the community's opinion on that. We're here every day working, so don't worry about us. The question is really for you guys is, if we use the new numbers, we can grow a little bit less, you still grow about 35% projected over 20 years. If you use the existing numbers, then you grow, you're projected to grow about 55%. So that's, I think that's kind of the nutshell.
I will take that back just a little bit. When the timber industry in the state of Oregon and Washington and California crashed, there were some communities where their population did drop quite a bit. Molalla was a little bit different in that, because you have to kind of look at every community individually. The city of Molalla, actually the population grew during that time, because that's when most of the single-family construction occurred, you know, in the late 80s and 90s, where some timber communities where mills closed, their population flatlined or it went down a little bit. So there was some of that, and this was a weird situation with COVID, and nobody really knew what to make of it. Now we're past it, and so people are looking back and they have better information on what happened. So in a way, yes, we've seen something like this before with a employment catastrophe, if you will, with the timber industry, but a little bit different than COVID. You know, the factors are very different. So,
and there were some additional salient points too that I as a staff member for you guys I don't disagree with, and that is, you know, we do have some infrastructure difficulties that we're trying to replace and back infill and touch up. So to that end, obviously, the more we expand, the more that's new stuff that we've got to put in and focus on, and et cetera, which could conceivably, depending on how fast that happens, take the focus off of the existing stuff, right? If we've got road problems now, if we add another 10 miles of roads, it's going to be harder for us to get to repairing the ones that we have been now. So those are very salient points in terms of infrastructure, which is obviously near and dear to my heart, you know, because I live it and breathe it every day. That could be advantageous to us to minimize the growth, and likely would be. You know, no one can predict the future, but you know, so there's some very salient points, and there's some very good reasons I think to go in either direction.
Mac, I have some questions. These grants that we've gotten to go through this process,
Excuse me.
have they covered all the expenses, the staff time? I mean, your staff is wrapped up into this, City Hall's wrapped up, I'm sure, into some of this. Have those grants covered the staff's wages and time?
No, we typically don't, with these types of grants, apply for our staff time to be included. We can, but you're more likely to get awarded if you don't, because you're minimizing the number and you're directing the costs directly at the situation. So we have not applied for those out of pocket, outside of staff time. Each of these grants has a small match, about $5,000. So, you know, I think we've had 4 grants, so there's about $20,000 there too.
So with the staff time involved, could you give, or maybe Mr. Huff, could you give a rough estimate of how much taxpayer dollars are vested into this point? Our city, our voters, the people that live in the city, how much of their money is vested into staff time and wages?
That would be really, I mean, I could go back and try to make a calculation, but if I said something right now, I would be throwing something out the wall. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, Mac, that would be hard. I don't think.
And there's a point behind this.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But the one thing I will say about this is that the work that is being done is for the benefit of this community. I mean, you're right, you know, if you talk about Dan Zinder and Matt Corthell, and Clarissa sitting over here, they're paid out of, you know, they have a salary and a wage and benefits and all those things that we pay for, but the work they're doing is actually for the community. It's not like they're doing work that is not then turned around and applied to the community. It's actually land use planning at its core, which is comprehensive planning. You know, the planning we do when we receive a application to build a house, that's you know, people call that current planning, but what they're doing now, and this, what we're talking about tonight, is the vision for the community, to use one of our commentators' words. That is the vision for the community, what they're doing. And so I would say that it is beneficial to the community to have them doing this work. And some communities, no offense, Violet, will use a
Lay it on me.
consultant, but not have a Dan Zinder working in concert with her to get this work done, or Mac or Clarissa, and we're blessed to be able to have that. So
Absolutely.
he's walking right in tandem with her getting it done, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Mayor, if I can clarify, the grant that my work when I was here last spring for the Goal 14 work and the public meeting that we had and all that, that was a direct contract between 3J and DLCD for all of our time and our analysis and all of that. Didn't go to any of the staff's time. Their biweekly planning meetings that they do, you know, all of that. Again, that work doesn't go out the window. A lot of that work is still relevant when it's time to pick up the Goal 14 work again. The HPS grant was also direct, both of them, the initial one and the remand one were also direct with my firm for my time, and we were assigned as DLCD's list of on-call consultants.
We requested them.
And in the interim, I have, you know, worked with staff additionally, and I think the new grant is direct to staff to then hire, but we've been working for 3J to do that work as well. So again, it's to pay a consultant to do the analysis and the reports and the work, and it doesn't cover staff time.
Well, and where I'm having issue, first off, you know, I received an email today just demanding I direct you guys to change path. That really kind of bothered me. But the other part is the people that live in Molalla proper are the ones fronting part of this bill. 3 people came in tonight that don't live in Molalla proper that are requesting us to change path, which is, you know, and granted, the money that we have spent can go toward the future of what happens, but it is going to cost us more money. And my last issue is, what happens in a year when the numbers drastically change because of whatever epidemic comes through, and we're sitting here with the same issue going, change the numbers. We started this group, and if you don't change the numbers, you know, whatever. It's hard to decide which route to go. I can see the benefits on both sides, but I'm also financially responsible. Actually, 7 of us are financially responsible for 10,300 people. And so I don't know about the rest of council. I would personally like to table this tonight for our next council meeting. So we have more time to do some more research. There was some more emails that came in, and we can study some of these emails that did come And if we have more questions, we can take the time to sit down with city staff. Since the emails all did come in today, we really didn't have time to spend with staff asking some of the questions, or maybe be able to do some of the research. I don't think a decision like this should be made in a haste.
If we ran to the 11th, we could PC too.
Mayor Kaiser?
Sir.
Question. So with the change, we would have some new regulatory information, which we have part of that up on the screen now. How much of a change is this from what our current plan has? We showed that earlier.
800 less units.
Sorry, I wasn't clear. So this is directing, the units based on that 1145 and what units are going to fill what buckets. How much change is this from the previous buckets and where we had more decision-making into where those housing numbers went?
Right, your existing H&A does not have buckets. I provided this, which was just taking the existing income ratios and saying, okay, right now you've got 20% of your population is in this income bracket. So let's take 20% of 2,000, of the need of 2,000 units, and say we need 20% of them to be affordable to this income bracket. And I put what a rent that would be affordable at the bottom. But again, that is just a visual, right? That's a way of visualizing those 2,000 across income brackets. That's not actually in your H&A, so it's not legally something that's required. The H&A just says affordable to all units. To all households across Molalla. So this is just our attempt to kind of visualize what those 2,000 would be. You don't have buckets. You just have the 1,996 new units by 2042. Again, that is based on that population projection, which is now like half. And then they give you some rough kind of 55% should be single family, 25% medium, and 20% high density. And in the report, you'll see through the rezoning, they actually took care of most of the medium and high density through rezoning within the UGB. So the expansion would be mostly for single family, was what we talked about last spring.
So that those bottom three bullets are the comparison.
Yeah, that's
basically just by density.
That's the only buckets that the H&A, the existing H&A gives you, which is just the mix between single family and multi unit buildings. So yeah, this was just an analysis to visualize, and this is what we have right now. This again just came out in December, and this is the way the information is going to be given moving forward. Each jurisdiction is going to be given a need. They're going to be given that need based on the allocations, but you've actually noticed something very, I think, telling, which is actually when I went back and just did the brackets, I had 275 in the over $150,000 a year households. 120% of AMI is 148,900 for Molalla, and it's got 417 in that bracket. So it's actually got double and then half in each of the lower brackets. So it's a little bit different. I didn't do that methodology. That's coming from the state. And again, this is how it's going to work moving forward. So, there's pros and cons to each of them. And I think, Mayor said exactly what we said a year ago, which is, some of this is just what happens when you do planning that takes 2 years. And I will say I've been in contact with Portland State to try to figure out some of their methodology. I have other clients, other jurisdictions that show that they're going to have negative growth. And they're like, why are you saying the county's going to grow, but my city's not? What are you basing that on? Because historically we've been growing. So what do you know that we don't know? So again, a lot of jurisdictions are dealing with these population projections, and I just think COVID threw everyone for a loop. But again, as your point, there's no way of knowing if that would happen again.
Well, and I know other cities in the county that PSU came in with lower numbers, and it was an absolute mistake on PSU. The city went and fought it and got updated, better numbers that went up. The city of Estacada has never gone down in population in the 5 years I've been mayor. I've watched them grow and grow and grow, and I think it was just last year, PSU came in with lower numbers, and they went and fought it, and they won. they got updated numbers. So it doesn't sound like it's a surefire, safe system. Counselor Schenkel?
So what I want to know, because this trying to make this decision is mind-boggling. So if we were to continue at where we're at, what else do we have to do and how long, or approximately? And if we were to do the other, use the other numbers, what do we have to do and how long?
I think that's an excellent question, and one of the things that maybe, in terms of tabling this, one of the things that I can provide is we've already submitted a draft scope of work to the state for the Goal 14 work, which is split about half between our firm and then also to the engineers for the detailed cost estimates, and then also for me to then take the detailed cost estimates and update the Goal 14 memo that I gave you last year with those new numbers and that new information under the new rules. So one of the things that I can do is provide that scope of work to say this is what we were scoped to do with the money, and here is a draft scope of work of what using the new population forecast. I shouldn't say population forecast, it's actually using the new ONA allocation, which the population forecast is one piece of their methodology and how they come up with it. It's no longer just like apples to apples, you take the population forecast and do it. It is part of it. They are basing it on PSU, but it is a more detailed and nuanced methodology, I think, for how they came up with this. I could give you both of those so you could see exactly what the tasks would be and the timeline and how that would look. I'm happy to provide those.
But I think I think there's a more direct point for the immediate work. If we're on the track that we're on, it's basically finish up the HPS, and then probably sometime in the summer, the Goal 14 and UGB amendment would come.
Well, I think either way, you're looking at a kickoff in February, early March, and the work would have to be completed by the end of fiscal year 2027 because as part of the grant. So that money needs to be used in that time, but they have let us know that if we pivot and we want to submit a different scope of work, that's the HCA on the new allocation. They will allow us to do that. Again, I'm doing scopes and contracts for other jurisdictions. We could seamlessly shift and do that. But again, when that fiscal year is over, there would still be work to be done that would need to be, would be contingent on a grant application for funding.
It's feasible we could be voting on this in 2028.
Or 29.
On the UGB, yes.
On UGB, yeah.
Yeah.
28, 29, absolutely.
Whereas at this point,
Versus
we're
mid-26, yeah.
27. Okay.
27, yeah. So either way, whatever's being done with this grant needs to be done by, usually they want all the documents that are supported by the grant to be into DLCD by the end of May at least. Last cycle, I think I was told like the first week of June would be fine, so that they would then invoice and pay us for the work that we did. So again, it would have to be done, anything with this money would have to be done by June of 2027. So again, it would either be Goal 14 or Goal 10.
Question, so part of the process, you said basically we're going to have to do new lands evaluations, there's new reasons that things will qualify, not qualify, both sides. So theoretically, if we lowered the population number, but then we had less that we actually have on the books based on our current study, it may not impact the land we need to bring in as much as we would think. Would that be fair to say theoretically anyways?
I would say absolutely. You can't just say half, right? You can't just say, okay, well, the population it's 800 units less instead of 2,000. It's closer to 1,000, so it's half the acres. Because you have to do all this analysis over what the capacity is under these new rules in the UGB. And like you're saying, it depends on, does it add to? Is there more developable land than we thought there is? And all of a sudden it's a tiny expansion, or is the land not as developable as we thought, and that eats into the lower population forecast, and you end up with something kind of around the same thing.
Well, I'm seeing 417 single-family homes versus the theoretical 200 and change. I forgot the exact number.
Right.
But you're going to require a lot more homes for 400 single-family homes than you are mixed use amongst the different categories. So it seems like you're playing a lot of this, but it may not equate to a whole lot difference of land.
So,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Well, there are several points that I would like to make, and I hope I'm able to get them all out here. Right? We right now are on a track, and we know what we have to do. If we change tracks, we don't know what lies ahead. We don't know what lies ahead with DLCD and their rules. They just issued new documentation, but nothing to support it. They don't even know what they want, what this rule means. I don't like going into dark places and not knowing when there is a place that we can go where we know more. We don't know about funding. It's going to take more funding and more money. In today's administration, if a certain individual gets up in the middle of the night, he might decide to withdraw funding from that program or that program or that program. And we have no idea how quickly funding can be withdrawn. And if that didn't happen and funding were still there, you're never guaranteed payment on a grant you request. You don't make grants, you request grants. You ask for money, and there's no guarantee they're going to give it to you. And so, mainly for those reasons, and additionally, if we go ahead with this and we take in more land than we need, if we were to revise the numbers downward, it doesn't mean that they're going to fill up that land with houses.
That's right.
Because development is based on need. And if we don't have people wanting to come here, things change, then they're not going to develop them. We're not going to end up with houses sitting around empty. So for those reasons, I personally am in favor of staying on the track that we're on and not going into the unknown Everglades.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There's gators.
The north thing, I have one more question. If we stay on the track that we're on, do we get to use the new rules in trying to convince them that we need that space?
I'm going to defer to Violet on that.
I'm also going to defer to Violet on that.
I will defer. No, okay. I don't know. I don't think so.
You
So
don't
again,
think
some
so?
of this is a bit about the sequential work plan. If the sequential work plan gets thrown out and we proceed with the goal 14, but it's not happening according to that work plan, then it could be that you are allowed the new rules. If we proceed exactly with the work plan, we're using the old rules. And so,
But they now know what that word means.
It's true. So they may look at it, since there is no standard, they may apply the standard that's known now under the statute. But we, again, don't know.
yeah, so I will say unclear.
I think
There's
We're
a
back in
chance we
Everglades.
could. There's a chance we could.
that might be
There's a
good
chance
one
you
to go
could, but
back
there's
to.
also a chance that you could
Back
say,
to
hey,
the
you're under the
documents
old.
that DLCD would.
Well, I kind of feel like Scott, as far as, and no offense to you three people, because what you've been bringing is been great information and stuff, but again, you don't live in city limits. And even if we did move the urban growth boundary, it's not gonna get anywhere near, well, where did you say you lived again? Rachel Lane?
Rachel.
Over back beyond Ona.
Oh, okay, so you are close, okay. But the other two are not even anywhere near where we would be going. But it's the people in town that have been paying the price, and, you know, it's our tax dollars and stuff. We've been paying for all this work and all this time, and, I don't know, when I was a business owner, I would say there is no way we're going to redo this work. That's just a waste of money and time and energy, and I kind of still feel the same way.
One of the things
Yeah.
that's, I think, probably kind of salient here too is, you know, this is a 45-year-old urban growth boundary, and it still isn't fully annexed.
Right.
And you know, you're not trying to force people to annex outside of an island. So that's a point too. I mean, it doesn't change anything about the situation that the property's in until it annexes.
Right, right. Yeah,
It
these
still
could
has
stay like
county
this
zoning,
forever,
it
no matter
still
what,
has
how
county
we do
services.
it.
I think you made a very excellent point just now about, as a business owner, you wouldn't just say, hey, I'm gonna start all over again. I will say, there could be, something that hasn't been mentioned is just the benefit of having the development-ready land inventory paid for and done.
Right.
Could be helpful. That isn't something that exists. So you have a BLI, I know you have excellent GIS on staff, but those new rules, that new methodology of really assessing if land is developable, how close to developable, what is the capacity that could be developed on that with the existing infrastructure, having using DLCD funds to do that kind of detailed inventory of the land in the UGB could be very beneficial to the city. So again, you wouldn't be redoing exactly the same analysis with different numbers. You would be, in some ways, the new allocation is where an old H&A used to end. Now they give that to you up front and make you do a lot of land analysis that wasn't done in the past. So it is a new analysis that could be very helpful to the city. But I also get all the points around, and again, I'm here, I'm happy to start whichever direction you tell me. We will be under contract and get started working. It's just a question of deciding on those priorities.
Sir?
Something we talked about previously is there is a lot of control over the current landowners, regardless of which direction we go. If we go south, we go north. If the landowner has a farm, they want to continue to be a farmer or utilize it in that capacity, they have the right to do that.
Right.
Nobody's forcing them to switch their zoning. If they want to make a decision that's best for themselves, they want to annex, they want to change zoning, we're giving them that opportunity, and they're not going to do it if the demand's not there.
Right.
I think that's an excellent point, and what we talked about last spring was, when we talk about the South, there's over 500 acres of study area exception land to the South. The need was only, I think it was about 123 acres or something like that of residential land of what the report, it's been a minute since I saw my report, but I remember it being something like that. So again, of that area that we looked at, those 500 acres, that a lot of people who, came and talked, live in that area, that wouldn't be brought in under the current rule. It would be some small portion of those 500 acres, about, I think it was 130 or so acres of residential land, plus the park.
Council, I'll take a consensus if you're ready to make a decision tonight, or if you would like to take this to the next council meeting. Thumbs up if you want it to go to the next council meeting. One, two,
I don't
three.
know.
Okay,
Is it possible to ask a quick question?
sure.
Do we have any specific requests to consider? Is there any additional information that we're requesting from the team to provide us to help us in making the decision?
You can request whatever you want. I'm gonna sit down with the emails. I wanna get on a computer and I wanna do some more research before I make a decision. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I need to ask Mr. Corthell a point of clarification on the staff report. I see that there is no recommendation, that this really was just for informational purposes tonight.
Yeah, you guys
So-
don't have to take action
Oh, we don't
for
have
us,
to make
Okay.
any
for us to
decision.
continue, with the stuff that you've already adopted, and et cetera. There's no vote necessary.
Okay.
But if you guys intend to reconsider it, we would definitely need to know that so that we're not going full speed ahead
Right.
down a road that might not. move
So,
on.
my thought is, I'm gonna leave this, I'm gonna let this lie. If anybody would like to put this to a vote and change the direction of our planning, please let our city recorder know to get it on the agenda. It's not anything you have to come to me, just let her know that you want it on the next agenda. And I would say you need, if you want to bring this back, it needs to come back by the next council, because there's a lot of work they're gonna continue doing.
So it's gonna continue as it is.
Continue as
Unless
is.
we say we want to vote on it and change direction.
Yep, if you guys wanna put a vote on it, let Christie know, and she'll put it on the agenda, and there we go. Okay?
You had a 4-3, I think, on carrying it over to the next agenda. Were you gonna finish out that question, or?
Well, we didn't need to.
We don't need to, there's nothing to vote on.
There was nothing to
It's
vote
'cause
on tonight.
What are we gonna vote on next week?
We're not voting
Next
on
time.
anything, unless somebody brings it to the agenda,
So
if
as
they
it-
choose
I
to.
I
think,
think that's Counselor Childress' point, is that you
Yeah.
had 4 individuals asking
I
to
think
bring it back.
it's pretty simple. If you want to just let them go forward on the path they're on, there's nothing to make a decision on.
Right.
However, if you want additional information on what they brought up tonight, or if you want us to change course, then you would have to do that. So you'd have to be clear on additional information or change in direction.
Right. But in either case, we can't, there's nothing for us to vote on tonight, because it wasn't on the agenda.
It's just informational.
Does that make sense to everybody?
So if you walk away and they go forward, if you want to change direction tomorrow, then we're going to need to know
need
that,
to
so
let you
we
know.
can come back at your next meeting with additional explanations.
When we can press the pause button until we have a final answer.
Yeah.
I think Christie would probably let us know if that gets put onto the agenda.
I just did.
Thank you.
I feel like that's what I'm hearing from everyone, is that you would like to make a more confident, concrete
Is-
decision at
Is
the
that what we're
next
hearing?
meeting, so I
No.
have placed it on the January 28th agenda.
Everybody good with
Is that what we're hearing from everybody?
That's fine by me.
I think so.
Are there any salient sort of fishing expeditions that staff can help you out with?
What?
Like,
Any more
any
questions?
information, that
Oh.
you know.
Yeah, I offered the task, the scope of work for the grant that as it exists today. I'm happy to share that, or Dan
Yeah.
has that. And I've also shared a draft of a scope of work for the other idea, the pivot.
I would like-
So you could look at those two
I
together.
would like that, yeah.
And so we can give you that, and then, and I can come back next time, and be here for that conversation as well.
So can that be sent to us like in an email?
Thank you. That was my hand. Ms. Brown, I don't believe that the document that you presented tonight is something that I provided to council, or whatever the presentation was tonight. Is that the same information that was provided?
Different from,
Thank you.
and
So
it has not been provided yet.
what I would need from either whomever the document holder is on that, I would need a copy of that. So not only can I post it with this evening's packet information, so it's available to the public, but I'd like to be able to get it to city council as well. So
Awesome.
if we
So-
could do that tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow I will provide a PDF of tonight's presentation. We can also put it on the website. And a draft scope of work for the existing grant to go forward with Goal 14 work as we envisioned it when we made the application back in the summer. And then also a draft for what pivoting would look like in
We had
terms
to
of
pivot.
individual tasks
Okay.
and
Okay.
timeline.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments before we move on?
Just one real quick.
Yes, sir.
I just thank you for providing all this information and continuing to provide information as we try to navigate this very complicated task of our UGB expansion. And it's one that's, I've sat here through this whole thing and just trying to understand what is ahead of us and what is behind us, and just appreciate all the work that's gone into it. So thank you.
All right, moving on. Staff communication. Christie, do you have anything to report tonight?
Yes, I do.
All
Thank
right.
you. I'm sorry. I was like, we're starting with me? We're starting in the middle of the table? I'm so confused. Yes, thank you. Good evening. Again, council, I do have a few items to report from the city recorder's office. I do have a reminder to the public that we have opportunities to serve our community here. There is an opening on the Planning Commission and one seat open for the Budget Committee. Yes, both positions are available to citizens residing within city limits of Molalla. Secondly, a public notice has been created for your participation in the grand opening of the police department that's being held on January 28th. So if you all would like to go, you don't have to tell me. I went ahead and told the public you'd probably all already be there. Just as a reminder to you all, though, we will not hold a work session on the 28th because of that grand opening, but we will. I'll need you over here by 6 o'clock, please. I know it's going to be so much fun over there, but I'll still need you all to excuse yourselves and come on over here so we can have our city council meeting at 6. And then my last reminder is that we are holding a goal-setting work session next Wednesday, the 21st. Due to the newness of the facility, this event will not be televised. However, they're still working out a whole bunch of kinks. We'll just call them kinks. It's a brand new building. You don't know what your problems are until you're in your building. Anyhow, I would like to let the public know, even though it's not going to be televised, it is open to the general public. Anybody that wants to come and listen to what we're up to for goal setting, you're welcome to join us. It will be at 5:30 at the new police facility in the community room. Counselors, just as a reminder to you, on the 21st, you are invited by the chief of police and the lieutenant to have a private tour of the facility. It will begin at 5 p.m. So if you're there late, you might get locked out. No. I'll have somebody come and help you. Anyhow, we do want to get started right at 5 o'clock on that private tour because it will likely take the entirety of like 20-25 minutes. It's just that
Or
cool.
longer if somebody's
No.
talking.
Depends on how many.
No, I'll be coming to find you all. Because the following
not
message
coming?
is, we will be beginning our business meeting promptly at 5:30 p.m. and that's all I have.
All right,
Thank
thank you. Clarissa, got anything to comment on tonight?
I think there was a lot of thoughtful testimony today and a lot of really thoughtful comments up here, and I'm thankful that Violet was out here to answer a lot of these really big questions, and it was good to see this discussion.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Zender?
I've talked as much as I'd like to tonight.
All right. Mr. Corthell?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd probably go the same route, but I have some good news. I'll just read you the first sentence here. Hello, Mac. I'm excited to share that the House of Representatives has approved your community project funding request, Molalla Water Intake Project, for $1,092,000 as part of the FY26 Interior Environment and Related Agencies budget bill. So that's
Yes.
really exciting. We lobbied and worked really hard to get that money. I think I applied for it 5 times. So very, very excited. That's going to offset about 25%, a little bit over 25% of our projected overall construction cost, about 20% of the overall project cost, and we are kicking off the design phase for that project. So that's a very exciting one. Today, our favorite Seth Kelly, our water quality superintendent, hosted the Molalla River Middle School for 2 educational courses at the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant. Councilor Childress was there and got to partake in all. She can probably tell you a little bit more. I stopped in just to confuse everyone at lunch with some talk about how budget works and financing public facilities, and I could tell the kids were falling asleep for that one. They kind of went cross-eyed. I can't blame them. I do too sometimes. Our aquifer storage and recovery feasibility study, that's grant funded with 2 grants, one from Business Oregon and one from Oregon Water Resources Department. We're kicking that off next week. So we'll look at, obviously, continually trying to create redundancy in our systems so that, if anything goes haywire on the river or somewhere else that we're, still have a good water source and all that good stuff. So that would provide a secondary water source for the city if it's feasible. And so we're starting that study. The wastewater treatment plant, we met with our funders today from DEQ and USDA, and we'll be setting a meeting with the regulatory arm of DEQ, but we've kind of received tentative approval from the funders, and now we need the regulatory approval, but that would complete that overall project. There's a change coming down about 5 years early, and at about it's roughly about 12% reduced cost. And that phase 2 portion is the removal of all the biosolids from Lagoon 1. That was going to be a phase 2. We're looking like we're going to be able to slide that up, which gives us a better tonnage rate and decreases the amount of interest that you pay on on those loans, because we'll be able to close those loans substantially earlier than we had expected. So the 12% I just quoted is in actual cost. I don't know the numbers on what you're going to save in interest yet. So it's actually north of 12% that it will reduce that portion of the project, not the overall, just that portion of the project. But it's a fairly substantial savings of right in the neighborhood of about $700,000, close to $1 million. And again, that doesn't include interest. We'll find out what that looks like. The North Molalla ADA crosswalk, we should be having a flashing beacon here pretty soon. And then we're kind of, that should be by the end of the month, and then we're just gonna be waiting on weather to see when we can pave that over, but it'll be usable in the interim. And then once weather gets good enough, we'll go throw some asphalt on there and get it all finished off and completed. And we received the draft of our PFAS studies. That's another grant-funded project. But we received the draft of that. Very, very, very positive outlook, very promising. So we'll be sharing that with you guys after we need to go back to Business Oregon, and we'll review that with them. We've already reviewed it, our engineers have reviewed it, and of course it's an engineering document. And so everything looks to be in really good shape there, but you guys will see that report, and I'll share more about at that time. We've had a long night, so. But that is wrapping up, and everything is looking to be very promising there. So that's all I have for the night.
Thank you, sir.
Super.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Trout?
Just a couple of things to add on to what Mr. Corthell said about Seth Kelly. We did get contacted by Colton High School that they're actually interested in doing some educational opportunities, so we'll be working on that. So I know that that's something that has been near and dear to the council's heart for a number of years, and we've struggled to get that rolling, but maybe today's, except for the financial explanation, will lead to additional opportunities. The other thing I just wanted to bring up is that this morning I went out to PGE's new kind of command center in Tualatin for a tour. And it was interesting. I don't think I came away with anything specific for Molalla on the whole thing, but I did see Molalla on their screen that was like half this wall over here that had us on there. So we actually do exist on their grid. And the lights weren't flashing because the transmission areas weren't down. So, but it was interesting. I do think that PGE is trying to get out in front of not only the issues with wildfire, ice, power outages, and certain things. I do really think they are, and I don't know how that's going to impact Molalla, but I know they are working in Molalla right now, replacing some lines. And I do think it was important that we go to those things when they're available, because it shows them that we're interested. If we're going to argue with them about service, we need to show up when we're invited. So it was a good thing. Other than that, the grand opening should be fun. And we're all looking forward to a fabulous goal-setting session next week. Or something different, if you all want to call it something different.
Any questions or comments? All right, Councilor Basenis.
Looking forward to some new appointments and trying to learn more about our community. So that's all I have for today.
All right, Councilor Bartholomew.
I have nothing to report, Mayor Kaiser.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Gilmer.
We have one thing, Councilor Childers and I met with Molalla River School Board, Mark Luke. Had a nice coffee break with him. He had nothing but good things to say about Mac. He was very appreciative of your transparency and your willingness to work with the community. He recognized how you care about the community that you work in and had nothing but highly to say about it. And enjoyed our conversations. He's looking forward to having more. So,
All right, thank you, sir. Councilor Schenkel.
I have nothing.
All right, Councilor Childress.
Well, like Max said, I attended the class today. Didn't last for all of it because it's really interesting when you go out to the river on a morning like today was. It was just darn cold, and we were outside most of the time or sitting on metal chairs in an unheated room that I'm sure was about 34 degrees. And that's when Mac was speaking about finances. So no, there wasn't a lot of participation. Most people were sitting there like this. But it did give me a new appreciation for what we do for the city. You know, seeing, hearing again about how we take water out of the river, raw water, and make it drinkable and usable. And then the wastewater treatment plant, how we get rid of it, you know, the rest of it. It was all very interesting, and I have an enhanced admiration for Seth. I didn't know he had so many certifications, but he can go just about anywhere in Oregon and run any plant. And it came through, and he, due to the fact that he has, 5 kids, he was able to he gave all this technical and in-depth information in a way that students could understand, and I understood it too, which was nice. So it was really good. It was a good experience, and I hope that we're able to do something like that for Colton School. That'd be really great. Other than that, if you're sitting in your house and don't have anything to do, you can start packing up your trash, because in April, once again, we'll have trash day.
start packing it up.
Bag it up.
Yeah.
And so that was my day, and I'm looking forward to goal setting. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir.
Yeah, first, I look forward to serving in this role as council president another year, and also as the C4 alternate. During Christmas and New Year's, me and my wife and I, had our 4-year-old grandson come and stay with us. The reason I bring this up is because he just loves Molalla parks. So we take him to all the parks, and one of the last times we went to Fox Park, he's like, let's go to the library. And that was such a fun experience for him. He went in there, they had this scavenger hunt going on. They were so accommodating, and he thought it was the neatest thing in the world. So take advantage of our library. There is so much going on there. Go ahead and look them up on their online, their website, and they will have a full list of different types of activities, not just for kids, but for adults also. So anyway, it was a great experience, and I know that we'll be taking them back again. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, sir. First off, Happy New Year to everybody. This year started off with a bang. I've gotten a ton of compliments and attaboys for Public Works. During the Christmas break, we had some tremendous flooding. We had some residents that got their homes flooded, and all I've heard is just how hard your guys' staff, your Public Works staff busted butt getting things done and getting this, I mean, within a day, you couldn't even tell anything happened. And much appreciation to you guys and your staff for making it happen. For some reason, when there's some sort of natural disaster in this city, we come back bigger and stronger, and you guys prove it every time. So really appreciate all their hard work and your guys' leadership. C4, we had our first meeting last week. It was going over, they brought in some state elected, and they were explaining how the state doesn't have enough money for ODOT. I'll leave it with, it was an interesting conversation. Starting next month, I probably please don't ask me for any extra meetings, because I will be paying attention to the session, and they're gonna be flooding the state with a lot of bills, and probably one of them's gonna be another transportation package, or they're gonna try to refer the existing transportation package that's already referred, so it doesn't go to a vote. So a lot of eyes are gonna be on session for, I think it's 35 days. I call it hell. End of this month, I was invited to a conference at Jansen Beach. It is presented by the Western Liberty Network, and basically it teaches people how to be more involved, get involved, how to run campaigns, stuff like that. And so I was invited to go to it, and so I'll be attending that for 2 days. Looking forward to a learning experience. Staff, thank you. You guys brought your A game. Christy, appreciated a great packet tonight. Always appreciate all your hard work. Violet, thank you for coming in and playing dodgeball with our questions and hitting us in the face with your knowledge of what's going on. And to the galley, thank you guys for coming in and making comment tonight. I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate your input, and I hope you guys know you are heard. We are listening to you. We have a very, very hard job. We have to make decisions for a lot of people, and when there's just a few bringing those ideas and suggestions in, it makes it even harder. So we do appreciate you guys coming in and making comment tonight. And with that, for the good of the order, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:35.